Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lando Norris's Washed podcast. Sorry, I'm in the blatantly biased racing podcast, where I'm joined by Casual, and we're going to chat about, Baku, and then a little bit on Singapore and stuff. But how are you today, man?
Well, pretty good.
Yeah.
The race was
Good race.
bit exhausting, right? A bit exhausting.
Great, though.
But fun,
Yeah.
engaging, and I remember just a minute or two before the race started, I basically posted this thing that let's just hope we have a close, action-packed race, and I think we got that. I'm more than happy, more than satisfied. I was worried because we had a shitty Baku race last season.
Yeah.
I didn't really like it.
No.
So on that front, I'm happy. And of course, a lot of things which kind of pissed me off throughout the weekend. We'll talk about it later.
It was kind of a really, really good Baku, considering normally, so far, all of the Baku races that have been great have just been chaotic with safety flags and red flags. This was a great Baku race that didn't have any safety car, like with the VSC at the end, but that was it.
And that caused a lot of chaos.
I mean,
uproar, a weird uproar, but
we'll chat on this, I'm sure, at some point, but there should have been 4 penalties there. Those drivers were very
lucky.
I mean, if you just look at the regulations, there's no excuse for them not to give penalties.
Yeah.
It was really strange that the FIA basically said, "Oh, we didn't notice it in the past, so we're not going to do it now." Like, that's a very... I've never heard that before. You know?
Yeah. We'll get to
I'm sure
it.
Verstappen fans are happy, but it's a very strange decision.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, looking back on the race weekend, we had, first of all, qualifying. Started with Q1, where Lando intentionally placed Esteban Ocon in that particular position so that he could get a yellow flag and be eliminated in Q1. From that point onwards, I think for me, there were a couple of things that stood out. First of all, one guy that did not get a mention throughout the weekend, Fernando Alonso.
Very good race.
Just stunning. He's back to doing his things. I think the motivation is back because Adrian Newey is back. That's one thing. Other than that, the rookies, Franco Colapinto and Ollie Bearman.
We'll talk about Colapinto and stuff later now, but amazing.
Man,
Yeah.
future is bright for both of them. I just loved it.
They should just cancel Hamilton's contract now and give it to Bearman. I mean,
Yeah,
get him.
would save them a
training.
few quid.
Yeah, and they can always. It'll be much cheaper to get Hamilton into a Haas, because there's nowhere else for him to go now. So.
Seems like it. I mean, why would anyone want it?
He's washed.
Yeah. Anyways, other than that, I think one thing that stood out for me personally, Charles Leclerc around Baku is just something else.
Spectacular. Charles Leclerc in general is just like it's strange for drivers to kind of, even this far into their career, like I know it's 5 years or whatever, it's strange for drivers to get so much better just generally. Like normally we see this kind of leveling up when you get like a strong title battle. Like Verstappen after 2021 felt like a different driver, a more refined driver.
Yeah.
Leclerc this year, without any sort of pressure from a title fight or anything, just seems to be becoming a more refined driver. And it's...
Yeah.
I think Hamilton's going to have a really big problem on his hand next year, I think.
He will. We'll get to that. I think
there's so much to get to.
There's so many talking points, honestly. I mean, and that's the best part about Formula One. There are so many things to talk about. Just love 2024.
I've said it now officially on Twitter. This season for me is like 2012. This is my favorite season since 2012, and I'm actually going to say it. This is better than 2021 for me. Like this is just better because. Sure, we don't have the crazy close title battle like every weekend or whatever, but the fact that we go into every weekend not knowing who's going to win and we get actual fights for the lead, this is better. This is so much better.
I think the emotion. I think I'll still give the edge to 2021 and 2012 because the title battle.
Yeah,
the emotions
2012
are
2012 is better. This definitely, especially. Watching Fernando lose was incredibly heartbreaking, even though I was like a massive Vettel fan at the time.
No, it wasn't heartbreaking for me. It could be for you. I was fine with it.
I was a Vettel fan, but I was like, that is really shit for
I think
Alonso,
that final shot of him standing and just looking at
which I don't
that
think
hurt.
I think he was looking at Massa or something. I don't think he was actually like.
He clarified it later.
Yeah.
He's clarified twice that he wasn't looking at Vettel or something. But
Yeah, it's
if
still
he
that
was,
perfect
in
moment.
case if he was,
Yeah.
it made sense. But yeah, anyways, coming back to this, I think even talking about the track thing, I think other than this, maybe Lewis at Hungaroring. That's one track where I think the driver track combination works perfectly.
Yeah.
I think in the past it used to be with Felipe Massa in Turkey.
Yeah.
He was just brilliant throughout the turn 8 section, which is still one of the best corners. And I think it's basically some drivers and some tracks just click. Even Checo at Baku.
One. Yeah.
And even Checo and Baku. So just there's something brilliant about the whole thing. And the fact that he got pole position by around 4/10, that's not a small. That was basically him putting. It's just putting a benchmark that okay, on this track you cannot really eclipse whatever I'm doing.
4/10 is devastating, like devastatingly. To be 4/10 behind your teammate basically means you're washed. But we'll get to Russell and Hamilton later. But yeah, no, Leclerc.
Yeah.
Leclerc is fantastic around here, and but what was great about this is Leclerc has been fantastic in qualifying around here for a while now. But to finally have a car that can actually go through in the race, he was really, I won't say unlucky to lose this because it's more that Piastri just
we'll talk about it. Yeah. I think it wasn't luck. I wouldn't say it was luck. I think it's yeah.
Oscar made a brilliant move basically, but like if that Leclerc did
factors is what I would say.
Leclerc I think did everything he could. There wasn't really much more he could do. Except potentially go much later on the brakes, but
I disagree.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's where the biggest difference was, and just to finally just encapsulate everything, we went to the race. Leclerc in the first stint built up around 4 to 5 seconds lead over Oscar. Then Oscar pitted, and surprisingly, Ferrari waited for 3 to 4 laps, and then they pitted Leclerc.
Yeah. Ferrari getting strategy
that didn't
wrong.
Make sense.
I mean,
again, it's a bit weird, honestly. And I think again, then as soon as Leclerc came, Leclerc was out. After Leclerc came back from the pits, I think Oscar had around 2 seconds of a gap to Leclerc, but he was pushing like anything, and Leclerc was slightly caught off guard. And when he was even in the DRS, I don't think Leclerc expected Oscar to pull off the move, and he even said that in the cooling room. Then he got the overtake. Once the overtake was done, I think the race started from there.
Yeah.
And then you had these two just. I mean, that was brilliant to watch because the gap did not until the last 3 laps when Leclerc's tires were just done.
Dead. Yeah.
Yeah. And until that point, the gap did not float from maybe, it didn't exceed 1.2 seconds, which it reached at a certain point. And that's very, very close racing in Formula 1. Just brilliant and brilliant to watch.
Look, I know that dirty air is still a problem in these regulations, but that is just another piece of proof for me of how much better these regulations are, because I think what people forget about the old regulations in 2021 is you just couldn't do that for more than 3 to 4 laps, because once you were within 3 seconds, the tires at the minute are a problem, but back then it was like the tires and the engine and the brakes just overheated after 3 to 4 laps, and
there was one
now
difference,
we're getting these fantastic.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah.
There's one difference though, and I think it kind of got highlighted this time around a bit more. It's the fact that the slipstream effect has decreased in these cars.
Yeah.
And that's why the overtakes in Baku have decreased to a large extent. Even in the last couple of years, we've seen that. And even Monza and other tracks, because in slipstream, there's hardly any gain. Leclerc gained around a 10th or so, and until he reached that DRS zone, it wasn't really plausible for him to gain anything more.
Yeah.
Plus, of course, there was something very interesting happening with the McLaren rear wing as well. We'll get to.
I think as well the other big issue that you're just going. It's just you're gonna always have downsides with every upside. So like.
Yeah,
we have this really close field spread where even though like McLaren is the fastest car at the minute, it's not the fastest car by a mile. It's not like last year's Red Bull. So
I don't think I'll say McLaren was the fastest car here either.
we could argue that, but my point is more like the cars are a lot closer. Like the difference between the cars is a lot closer than it was, say, last year. The downside to that you have is you need a big difference normally to just overtake. So it's going to mean that like you're going to have DRS train problems. You're going to have overtaking difficulties.
Yeah.
But I'll take it when we have races where everything's so close, to be honest.
Yeah, true,
Like,
true.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just...
I mean, we
can't have it all.
wouldn't have had this race. I mean, the race going in this manner if it was, even if it was 2022, because at that point the dirt year was not playing that big a role.
Yeah.
This time, by 2024, it has really started catching up.
Engineers will figure that out, you know.
It was always bound to happen. Yeah. So now coming to the first question, did Charles Leclerc and Ferrari lose it by being too complacent? What's your take on it? Then I'll give.
I mean, maybe, because you could say as well that by giving that 3 laps and thinking they kind of could hold on to the race the way they did with the strategy, it's a really simple mistake, because essentially you're not only kind of trying to gain more space or do an overcut or whatever, you're also giving Piastri time to bring the tyres in correctly, and then putting Leclerc into a situation where he has to bring the tyres in really quickly, which clearly hurt him at the end of the stint when the tyres just dropped off. I don't know if it's complacency. I think just... No, I don't know if it's complacency, to be honest. I don't think Ferrari is that complacent anymore as much as they used to be. I think they just still aren't operating at 100%. You know, like there's a lot that Fred has needed to fix, and we saw that earlier this year after Canada and so on.
Yeah.
I just think it's just... I still just think they're not quite there. Like, I think we see this with McLaren, right? Just the amount of like small strategic mistakes that add up over time and throw away wins. So I think it's just strategic mistakes. I don't think it's complacency. I think it's just not operationally being as good as, say, a Red Bull or a Mercedes, you know, in those situations. They seem to be better this weekend car-wise, but when it comes to strategies, I don't think Red Bull would have made that mistake. Like, Red Bull would have known, okay, come in straight away because we don't want you pressurizing your tyres as soon as you come out. You know?
Yeah.
Why Ferrari didn't do that, I don't know. I just think it's poor judgment. I don't know if it's complacency. Because it's not like they had a huge lead.
They had
4 to
5 seconds. That's a lot.
But 4 to 5 seconds, surely even they know that can go away very, very quickly with a tyre offset. Or with, like, you know, even worse than that, that's not enough that if there's a safety car, for example, to jump. Like, you need roughly 11 seconds still, or 10 seconds with a safety car. So, you know, like, surely in that situation, they think to themselves, right, probability of safety cars or red flags in Baku is quite high. So, I know you have the other side to that, which is maybe we hang it out and hope one comes. But if one comes, we're kind of fucked. So, I don't know. It doesn't...
I'll tell you why.
Maybe I'm wrong there. Yeah. It's
I'll
complacency.
Yeah. It is. Now, the reason why is, first of all, I think after the first stint, or during the first stint, because it reached a point where Leclerc was pulling the gap at around a second a lap.
Yeah.
Once that reached a point, I think both Leclerc and Ferrari, they kind of thought that, okay, they had the race in the bag. That was the mindset that they had. So when Oscar pitted as a reaction to Sergio Perez, who was kind of held back by Lando as well, which helped overall.
Yeah.
But what happened was, because of staying out for 2 to 3 laps extra, it helped Oscar catch up. And now due to that, when Leclerc came out, what his mindset was that he will bring his tires up at a slower pace, something that a lot of drivers tend to do, just to, you know, get not overexert them at the start of the stint.
It seems
so
to be
that
more
they are
important
not
now as well.
Precisely, so that because the stint was going to be huge.
Also, just quick note, what I just said about the safety car, I just realised in my head was complete bollocks, so ignore that completely.
I know.
Yeah.
I just let you say it.
Yeah. I just, after it, I was like, wait, that makes no sense. Continue.
Precisely.
Sorry.
In all the cases, even in the red flag and everything, it didn't make any sense.
No.
But yeah, still, it happens. Still early morning on your side, right?
I'm hungover, yeah. So
yeah,
that's my
it's
excuse.
fine. Blame it on the Independence Day. Anyways, so once that was done, I think that was the part where Ferrari was complacent. The second part where Leclerc was complacent was once Oscar has caught up with him. And even he in the cool down room, Leclerc said that he did not expect Oscar to make that move.
Yeah.
He said, when you tried for it, I wasn't really expecting that. And that's just, you can say, a lack of presence of mind, or maybe not being alert enough to something like this.
Yeah.
And that, in my view, that hurt him. Once the position was lost, I think even there were areas where Leclerc said that, okay, during the rest of the sequence, Leclerc said that Oscar is starting to struggle. A couple of times he said that on the team radio. One point I could say was, throughout the battle, there was one thing that was quite evident. Oscar was the aggressor. Leclerc, he wanted to make the move, but there was a conservative side to it. Maybe it was because in the back of his mind, he had the whole, maybe championship is still on the line. That's why he was playing a bit conservative, because there were moments where Leclerc was probably more closer to Oscar than even Oscar had been when Oscar made the lunge. But he didn't really try, not even once.
Yeah.
If I think it was around a 28 to 29 lap stint, or maybe more, I'm forgetting how long the battle lasted. If throughout that time, if Oscar did not make even a single, Leclerc did not make a single lunge, I think at some point in time you have to ask why. It was because maybe Oscar was fine with losing everything and Leclerc wasn't.
Do you think maybe, difference. Like the more and more we think about this, do you think maybe it is a case of these top tier drivers, like not so much kind of the midfield and back ones, but guys like Verstappen, Leclerc, Alonso's a famous case of this. That these guys have different approaches to different drivers all of the time. Like we see that with Verstappen especially, and with drivers who race against Verstappen, they'll drive completely differently to how they'll drive, say, with Hamilton, for example. You know, like they know kind of roughly what these guys are going to do. They learn them. They figure out what way they're going to be. Maybe there is a part of it that just Oscar still is quite new at the front, and these guys just don't know what he's going to do. And if you think about it, like, there's not many other drivers in second place knowing how late you're going to have to dive into that corner that would go for that move, because even Oscar said himself that was 50-50, right? Like, that could
he was fine. He was fine. The thing is, basically, he was fine Oscar with losing out. He didn't really mind.
He was like, okay, I'm going to go for a win because I don't give a shit about a number 2. So I'll either pull this off or I'll end up in the wall or in the runoff, and I'll either end DNF or P6 or something, or third or fourth.
I mean,
depending on how badly, depending on how much he went off. But like, maybe Leclerc just didn't know that Oscar is just that type of kind of all or nothing driver who'll just go for it. Because we're seeing more and more that Oscar is that kind of, well, if I don't win, then nothing else really counts. I don't really care. So let's just go for it.
He's a thoroughbred racer.
He's amazing.
He is a thoroughbred racer.
Amazing. And I think, like, we'll talk about Lando, I'm sure, but this is the scary part, isn't it, for Lando for 2025, which is when Oscar goes into 2025 starting from this level, that's going to be very hard to beat. And to be honest with you, I think even like Verstappen, Leclerc, all these guys, if there's an even car matching next year, I don't know if they know how hard it's going to be to beat, because this is kind of like, it's kind of Verstappen-esque in a way, isn't it, in terms of just that driver that will just go for it.
The thing is, he's still not done. Improving.
No. The question is, how high does it go? Because I think there is one mistake.
He's still not there yet.
No, but there is also one mistake that people on F1 Twitter like to make, which is they think, okay, he's increasing at this level right now and it'll continue like that forever. It's like that's not how it works. It will plan off at some point. Yeah. But I think there's still a bit of a way to go. But even if this was it, it's an incredible level.
It's crazy.
You know? But that dive,
he won
was
a race
amazing.
In a slower car against a Charles Leclerc. It's no fucking joke.
And to take Charles Leclerc by surprise, like, People can say what they want.
Not
about
many
Charles
people
Leclerc.
do that.
Watch
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc and Verstappen fighting at the start of 2022. Leclerc is an incredible wheel-to-wheel racer.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so to take him off guard is an incredible thing to do. And
I mean, yeah,
you know
I
what?
think
It was
that's-
like 2017 Daniel Ricciardo making those dives, right? But the difference is Daniel Ricciardo was in a situation where he actually had nothing to lose. He was coming from P17 through the field. Oscar could have lost
And-
the
and
second
yeah.
place. You know,
Yeah.
and for him,
But
it
the
was
thing
like,
is,
eh.
yeah. And again, it's just the risk and reward thing and just precise driver skill. But again, I mean, sorry, why I'm stressing a lot on Charles is I think I'm being a bit too critical because these are points that he's left on the table, which are if he wants to fight for the title, he should
And
be
also,
pissed.
I think
And
look,
Fred Vasseur
I'm
should
with
be
you that
pissed
we expect a better performance from Charles, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Charles would have won this race by 10 seconds. That's what I'd say. That's why I'm honestly very disappointed the way the whole thing panned out. And I think a part of it has to be on him. And while even in post race, he said that maybe our car setup was not perfect.
Yeah.
Bullshit. It was where it should have been, the way he was driving in the first stint. And I don't think Ferrari lost pace or McLaren gained pace in the second stint. It was just that you cannot overtake, and it's very hard to overtake in Baku. That's what hurt him. And even, you know, last season, Las Vegas, the move he pulled off on Sergio Perez, that was probably even more impressive than what Oscar did here to him. But that was something that he needed this time around. And maybe being a bit too conservative this season, I think he's curbed a lot of that aggression. And I think he might need to bring a bit of it back because...
Maybe it's just finding that balance, right? It's kind of, you're going from one
Precisely.
extreme to the other and then kind of trying to find out where in the middle works, you know?
Yeah. And, okay, one thing. Which car was the faster one here? Was it McLaren or Ferrari?
I just think, personally, I think that the McLaren was faster in the race, but I think, obviously, the Ferrari, I think, was the faster car in qualifying. I think that kind of... A lot of that is down to Leclerc, but Leclerc can only extract what the car can do. And let's be honest, Oscar isn't... I think Lando is a better qualifier than Oscar still, but Oscar isn't a slouch either. So we know that Oscar would have got that car close to what it could do. So I think in qualifying...
It was a surprise what Oscar did. I mean, the front row, I was a bit surprised because after the first and second Q1, Q2, you didn't really... McLaren didn't show that kind of pace, right? It was just in Q3 was just like this.
They should have never been in that position where Lando had to go out so late, for example. Like, they should have been quicker than that. So you're right.
Yeah.
But I think it seemed like something was
I think
off.
it seemed like was the track ramping up. Cause,
track evolution, yeah.
Yeah, because I think almost every driver had to do that. Max also had to do the same thing. Checo, George, Lewis, almost everyone. And I think that was
really
the case
unfortunate, yeah. But
yeah.
In the race, I think the McLaren... I think the McLaren was slightly faster in the race, but again, it comes down to
disagree.
just...
I disagree completely.
I don't think there's much in it, though. But also, it depends on the tyre as well.
I'll tell you why. I think it was when Carlos Sainz came out of the pits. There was a 4-lap delta between him and Oscar Piastri. And the gap between the two drivers was, what was it? It was around 10 to 11 seconds.
Something like that, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And by the end of the race, the gap was gone.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and another thing, if Carlos is closing that gap, and Carlos was nowhere in the same league as Leclerc, so you can just assume the kind of gap that Leclerc would have pulled. And that's why I say it's an opportunity missed because Ferrari had the car to win here. And I think it's actually a surprising thing to say, but I think Leclerc lacked that killer instinct, and I think he should have won. Maybe I'm being too critical of him, but I think a Max would have won this race. Just what I think.
Well, a Perez would have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fun. That was fun, actually.
I guess it's hard to say, though, isn't it? Because you'd have to run through everything. But yeah, I mean, it's always difficult to say now as well, because just the difference between running in free air and running behind drivers as well is huge at the minute. So
Yeah. It's massive.
Yeah, and then tire differences as well are massively different. Like even going from medium to hard is making Russell cry. So there's so many.
Blasted Pirelli.
Yeah.
I think he might go back and maybe rethink whatever
I think he might
thought.
regret. I think Toto would have said to him, be careful with that, because you've basically just said Mercedes don't understand the tire at a point when...
No. The problem was that he said that Mercedes... Your kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shouting in the background, yeah.
Yeah. So what he said was that Mercedes was the fastest car on the hard tire.
Yeah.
And that is basically incorrect. It wasn't the fastest car. The thing was, Oscar was playing defense at the front, and that made things look a bit convoluted for Mercedes, and that's how the entire picture got presented.
Yeah.
Mercedes was better on the hard tires, of course, but it's not as definitive. So yeah. I can understand what happened there.
Yeah, the daughter's really not happy about Mercedes Pirelli tire issues.
I mean,
yeah,
there could be worse things to be unhappy about.
Look, I think Russell's right there that there is clearly some issue with understanding the tires, but the problem with saying stuff like that so vocally, like he did, is sure, okay, you have those issues, but McLaren and Ferrari are miles ahead of you on the same tires, so like, you know, like there's still,
and even Checo was ahead.
Yeah, so it makes it look like at a time when Mercedes once again, as I said a few races ago, are in a situation where it turns out that, you know, their car is peaking at certain tracks that they kind of peaked at for the last couple of years anyway, and then when that goes away, they once again don't understand the issues. It's probably not a great look to be like, oh, we just don't understand the tires at all either. You know, maybe be a bit more, which is an odd one for Russell, because he's usually very good at kind of giving those PR answers.
But the problem was he was very vocal about tires as soon as the race was done. Even on the team radio, he said that goddamn tires, something like that. But it's weird.
Even though he finished on the podium.
He's so lucky, right?
Lucky driver, yeah.
But I mean, coming to Oscar,
Sabotage is back.
Sabotage, we'll get to it. That's a fun thing, isn't it? It comes back periodically.
Yeah.
Funny. Talking about Oscar, and I think you said something, it was in the previous or the one before that episode, where you said that Oscar might be the closest challenger to Max Verstappen in the coming future.
Yeah.
Initially, look, I did not think that was going to happen, because every time you see a new talent, you see flashes of speed, which is basically the peak speed, and there are weekends where they are completely blowing their teammates out of the water.
Yeah. And then you have weekends like Zandvoort, where Norris is 22 seconds ahead and he's in P4, like, you know.
Yeah.
So,
but for me, honestly, I think I still cannot pinpoint a weekend where I can say Oscar has definitively outperformed Norris in terms of race pace. And again, this is going to piss off a lot of Max Verstappen fans, because you say anything good about Norris, it hurts a lot of feelings these days.
It's not just Max fans. It seems to be every other fan base, basically. I think it's because the talk is that Norris is pushing for the title, and essentially that pisses everyone else off, because even like Hamilton fans earlier this year were like, you watch, Hamilton will be P2 by the end of the year. So it irks them. It irks them, especially because it's another British driver. You know, like, there's just a lot of bullshit basically on the internet. But anyway.
But I think, even though I still won't say that he has really outperformed Norris over a weekend definitively, I think the trajectory that he's on, and the way he does not really falter under pressure, does not make those mistakes, I'm starting to align my views with what you said, that I think Oscar might be the driver that maybe Max has to keep an eye on, because in terms of this entire crop of drivers that we have, again, I'm excluding Lewis and Alonso from it because they are already established. The George Russell, Norris, Leclerc to an extent, and Oscar. Now these are the 4 drivers that are there. I think one of them is going to actually rise above the others and is going to become the primary rival for Max. I initially thought it would be Leclerc, I think he still might be, because the natural talent is still there. But I think Oscar might be the one who... There are a few things that actually stand out, During the race, during the battle, how many of those team radios did we have between Tom Stellard and Oscar? And how many of them almost... I mean, if they were, probably it wasn't really as dramatic because none of them got broadcasted.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that is so impressive.
Yeah.
He was cool as a cucumber, and he's basically fighting for his second win in his second season.
Mm-hmm.
Someone with that mental fortitude, they go far.
Yeah.
That's just what
I think the thing is, like, for example, there's other drivers there that, like, it's obviously going to depend on the car more than anything else, right? Like, this is Formula One, so if Leclerc has the car, he'll challenge Max and he'll do a good job at it, no problem. You could say the same for Russell, Hamilton, Norris. Like, Norris right now has the car and is the closest to Max, so anyone who wants to talk shit, look, the situation is he has the car, he's the closest to Max, and you can bash Norris, but McLaren have thrown away just as many, if not more, points than Norris has. Actually, a lot more than Norris has.
A lot more than that. A lot more wins as well.
And made him give away a win that realistically he had on merit, and I'll argue that to the death because Oscar went off. But all of those things aside, if we're just talking about the actual skill level of the driver, there's two sides to it for me when it comes to racing against, say, Max Verstappen. This could be different for other drivers. Like, if you're racing against Hamilton, I think it's a different skill set you need. But with Verstappen, you need to be aggressive because he's going to be aggressive with you and you can't give an inch. And Oscar has shown that he's willing to be ruthless and aggressive. That's there. He's also got the pace. Clearly, the inherent pace is there. I think what's lacking with Norris right now is just experience. Norris just can kind of, string things together. And we'll talk about Norris in a bit because I'm quite impressed with the comeback. And I think it says a lot about, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think the other side that Piastri has, which puts him in a league where he could really even beat Verstappen, is, like you said, just the pure, it's like a lack of emotional connection to it.
Fucking it's just robot, this guy.
Yeah, it's just like, I'll go for it. And it's pure calculation. It's like, okay, I have a 50-50 chance of breaking this late and taking the corner, and it means either winning or ending up in the wall. I want to win. Right, calculation done. We're going for it. And he just doesn't.
Yeah.
In Monza, just around the outside of Norris, completely... Yeah. Like, again, you could talk about team wars, but just an incredible move.
The move was incredible.
Incredible. Right? So I think that the thing is, if it's Verstappen and him racing, right, obviously he needs a bit more experience, I think, with tyres, a few little issues, but this is only his second season. But let's say we go into next year and McLaren and Red Bull are the two fastest, right? Verstappen, when he has issues, we've seen Verstappen get emotional and his emotions go to a point where he throws things away. And it's not very often, but it does happen. We've seen it in Jeddah. He still got the P2, but he could have ended up with he could have ended up with big penalties there. There's a lot of things that could have happened there.
Yeah, Jeddah is a race I'd actually want to, maybe someday we'll discuss at length the entire fucking race.
Because it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
But you've got that, like Hungary this year.
I threw away a few bottles that day because out of frustration and anger.
It's just like, what are you doing? Yeah. But Hungary this year, perfect example of throwing away what could have been a third place in a podium. Yeah. Which probably won't be important, but if it comes down to him losing the championship by 2 points, straight away, there's your championship gone. As much as if Norris loses by 7 points, you're going to look at Hungary and go, what the fuck were you doing there, guys?
Yeah.
And in those situations, it's when Oscar's just kind of lack of emotion can make all the difference, because
everything is stable, right?
Yeah, because in that situation, when it's like, okay, I'm fighting for a title, he could get emotional that he's lost out, say, from first down to third, but Oscar seems to be the type of guy who'll just go, okay, let's just lock in this third place now. Whereas Verstappen will be, what are you guys doing? And losing it over the radio. Oscar will just be, all right, let's just keep going,
Yeah.
Like, even his win in Hungary, his radio at the end, just, all right, guys.
Very calm. Even here, I mean, he said that, this was the most stressful evening of my life.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really sound stressed, did he?
Yeah. And I think that's what Lando's going to have to be fearful of next year, because, look, I think people are going that Oscar's a better driver and everything.
this season he's not been the better driver,
No,
and
Lando's been the better driver.
just facts, just facts.
and
I mean, there's nothing.
This is two races where Oscar's gotten the better of Lando, right? But there are so many races where
it's not on, and I think even in Baku it's not on Lando in any which way.
No, the yellow flag. We'll talk about that in a minute. But like, the point is more. You could point out tons of other races where Lando has clearly gotten the better of Oscar throughout the year.
Yeah.
Zandvoort is the perfect example. Like, clear example.
Far too many. I mean, even Hungary is a perfect example.
Yeah, like Hungary, Oscar went off and Norris had to give him back the place because McLaren made it, in my view, looking back, a silly
Dumb decision. I mean, it still sounds dumb to me.
The thing is, when it comes to the two of them next year, the problem, again, like I just said with Verstappen, that Lando is going to face is, when it comes to those high-pressure situations, I think it's very clear now that Oscar will have the better mindset for that, and
I think that it's fair to say that it could happen, but I think there's also this one element of where this season, whatever Oscar does, he's winning.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically you can say, there's nothing he can lose. He could have gone for the win, even if he lost out. Fine, he did. Doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Because again, he's already been termed a second driver, right?
I guess we have to see what happens when he's actually
when he's actually under pressure.
When
it's constant pressure and when the stakes are high. Right now the stakes are not high.
I think people constantly forget as well that these drivers are human. Like, Lando has been waiting 5 years for McLaren to give him a car to do this, and now they've given it to him. They're making mistakes and not backing him for half the season. So like that's obviously, like, anyone talking on Twitter can just shut the fuck up, because if you were in that situation, you would be incredibly stressed as well, So let's see what happens if Oscar is put in a situation where those sort of things get put on him. Let's see what happens, because maybe that cool, calm, collected thing will go away. Who knows? But for the moment,
now at least,
it's very impressive.
He looks like a very impressive talent.
Yeah, if he continues like this and he just gets those last bits out of the way, it's not just Norris that needs to watch out. Like you said, it's Verstappen, it's Hamilton, it's Leclerc, it's
everyone.
all of them. They need to watch out, because this is. I know
this
everyone
race turned heads. Look, it's not often you have
people
someone.
compare him to Kimi for being quiet, but I think there's a lot of comparisons to Kimi Räikkönen in terms of just skill level as well. Like, Kimi was amazing, and people forget how good he was.
Peak Kimi, I'm maybe too much of a Kimi stan, but the reactions in the car and everything about Kimi was brilliant.
There's so many people who bash.
He won the title.
There's so many people who don't understand Kimi Räikkönen, because they are the people who just look up the stats and go, but he only won one championship and it was by a point, so how good can he be? It's like, forget about the stats. Watch him racing. It was incredible.
2005 F1 Japanese Grand Prix without DRS even existing, without the Pirelli tires, without having a car that was like 2 to 3 seconds faster or whatever the fuck. He had a similarly paced car, maybe slightly quicker than the Renault. Renault was leading the race. He started in P16, P17. And he won. The greatest drive in Formula 1 in my view. Fuck Brazil 2021, everything else.
Kimi and McLaren 2007. I know he won the championship anyway. Kimi and McLaren 2007, I think, would have destroyed either of those two drivers, because none of the bullshit behind this. Like we're saying with Oscar, none of the bullshit behind the scenes would have interested Kimi. He would have just been like, I don't care, I'm going to drink and fucking drive, go away. Not the
he
same
beats both
time,
of them.
hopefully.
Again, people would be very upset because it's Lewis and Alonso, but he would have beaten both of them in that McLaren.
You
in
know
that
how
season.
highly I rate both of those guys,
Alonso and Lewis,
especially Alonso. Like, I love Alonso. But in that situation, I think both drivers let the politics and the mess behind the scenes get to them in the races, and the rivalry started. Whereas I think Kimi would have just been like,
Kimi won in a different team, with different tires. He had never run a Bridgestone, and basically a car which was great in some tracks, but as soon as it started raining, the car was just garbage. And
Kimi dealt with Ferrari. That's the biggest thing.
He dealt with I mean, that was still a Jean Todt Ferrari.
I know, yeah. But he was there after it was Jean Todt as well. He dealt with a Ferrari over the years. So,
I mean, Anyways, moving on from this, I think one thing, again, let's just touch on it a bit. The Lando Norris Q1 thing. What's your take?
Really just unfortunate. I mean, it's another situation where, look, I can't bash the team too much because it is just a really, really unfortunate
I don't think
bit
it's
of...
yeah.
It's a really unfortunate bit of timing. They probably shouldn't have been in the position of going so late anyway. They didn't really need to. They could have gone out before the other guys. But look, anyone could have been caught out in that situation. Like, you know, that's not down to the driver. If Hamilton was coming through there, he would have had to lift. If Verstappen was coming through there at that time, he would have had to lift. If you don't lift, you're going to be penalised anyway. So it's a lose-lose situation. So, like, now in saying that, someone didn't lift, I believe, and they gave them a reprimand. So in hindsight, he probably shouldn't have lifted.
That was not for this one. That was for...
Am I getting confused with something else? Am I?
George didn't lift. I don't remember what was the...
Did someone just post that this weekend?
It was not the same thing. It was not the same thing.
No.
It was something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, George was the one who didn't lift. I don't know what it was for, but he only got a reprimand. Lando would have got a 5-place or 3-place penalty for basically speeding through the yellow flag thing. But again, the thing is, it's so split second. You cannot start criticizing them.
The problem with that, though, as well, is like, it's just so easy for people to say in hindsight, look, well, he should have taken the 3-place penalty then, or the 5-place penalty. But it's like, yeah, but the problem with that is these drivers are just, it's instinct. There's no, like, in that situation, it's not thinking. It's just you see the VSC or the yellow flag or whatever, and you lift. That's just what you just know to lift. These drivers just do it. It's a split-second reaction. Like, even if you look at the video, how quickly that is yellow, then white, then green. The fact that he even saw the yellow tells you how quick of a decision that is. It's not something you're thinking, oh, will I get 3 place or 5? It's just yellow, lift. Like, you know.
You have to. I mean, it's...
So people blaming
the thing is,
Norris for that are just mental. They just don't like Norris. That's the only
it's entirely just some very weird mental gymnastics. Again, there were some that said he should have asked the team, he should have taken the initiative. Again, I find it ridiculously stupid when people expect drivers to actually, you know, be the conductors of the strategy. There's a reason why a strategic team is actually put in place. It's not for a driver to overrule things.
But also, like, the people saying that, you know what they're saying? They're like, oh yeah, but, you know, Verstappen, Alonso, all these drivers, they have 75% left. That's in the race when they're managing...
Come on, man.
But that's in the race. That's when they're managing tyre. Not when they're on a fucking proper balls to the wall qualifying, like, you know, let's see what limit we can hit on this lap around the track.
It's utter desperation, honestly.
Yeah,
it's just utter desperation that we have to find something and we have to just beat him with that. And that's...
And look, all you have to say is, if you're in that situation and you're, say, a Verstappen fan, right? If Verstappen was in that situation and lifted, which he would have had to because they just all do this, it's not, you know,
by the way,
it's not a decision.
Five Verstappen fans commented on a post I made. Max Verstappen would have never lifted on that one.
Yes, he would.
He's a fucking idiot in that case. Because a yellow flag, if you're not lifting on that one, a yellow flag could mean anything. It could mean there's a big crash in front of you, and if you don't lift, it's a safety hazard.
It's not a decision. That's the whole point. These things happen so quickly that the drivers just instinctively lift immediately.
By the way, Max would have been in this position because Esteban Ocon was the one, I think, who bumped his, who had a crash, and he was basically going around the track slowly, and Max was right in front of him. If Ocon had not given him way, and it would have been a yellow flag at that very moment, then he was gone. It could have happened to him as well. He was just lucky it worked for him. And sometimes you have to take these things into consideration.
The point is, though, if that had been, say, Verstappen or Piastri or anything else, the narrative would have immediately been, oh, that's really unfortunate, unlucky. But as soon as it's Norris, it's a skill issue. It's the same with Hamilton fans on Russell, for example. Like, if Hamilton
in that situation, on anyone, Hamilton fans on,
but if Hamilton's
Max,
in that situation, it's unlucky, unfortunate. Why did the FIA fly a flag there, which they didn't? It's a marshal, like, you know, not understanding F1. And if it's Russell, it's immediately skill issue. You know, he shouldn't have lifted. You know, Hamilton would have never lifted there. So it's just bollocks. It's just narrative talking. But really, really unfortunate. But it leads to an amazing race from Norris.
I think that was some drive, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, him finishing P4, and the biggest thing is finishing ahead of Max. Just crazy, man. And
Yep.
and again, he won't get the credit he deserves, but that was a very first of all, overtaking the cars at the right time. That could have actually, look what happened with Lewis. It's not a Lewis who had a car that was astronomically slower, which his fans would say so. It wasn't a car that was astronomically slower than what Lando had, but still, that's what happened with them. And you have to understand these things, that at some point these drivers are, and again, I have said that Lando is an elite driver.
Yeah.
A lot of Max Verstappen fans has an issue with me calling him elite, but I mean, he is. How can you look at his drives and say he isn't?
Yeah,
it's just,
like it's just whatever. I don't know. It's like a couple of people over the weekend brought up the Oscar thing of it's like 2 wins in 18 months versus 2 wins in 5 years. It's just all of this bullshit where you're like, yeah, sure, but look at the car he had for the first 3 years of that. It's like,
by the way, these were the same people. A lot of them are Verstappen fans, by the way. A lot of these same people would actually shout and cry and say the other fan is toxic when someone points out that Lewis won a title in his second season and Max took 7 years to do that.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
If you kill context, you kill the essence of the sport and the basic understanding. And a lot of people are this dumb. But
But you know what? On the positive side of all this, I was really it was really interesting to watch Norris's interviews after the race, because the way he reacted to it and the positivity he took away from it, I think maybe there has been some discussions after Monza and maybe a reset in his mind after Monza of like, look, you know what, this is a far off chance of a title fight anyway, and all I can do is basically say, look, I'm going to get unlucky, there's going to be races that aren't coming my way. I need to just have the mindset of I'm going to try and maximize everything as best I can and fuck everything else and see how this goes. It was a really kind of refreshing talk from him, because normally him in that situation would be, but if it wasn't
very
for
hard on
yesterday,
himself. Right?
So it was kind of like maybe there has been some behind the scenes conversations and reset. So look, it's people, for some reason people are saying he needs 8.4 points a week now. Or per weekend now, but it's actually less.
7 races, 59 points.
Yes, which is 8.4. However, what people are forgetting is we have the sprint races as well, so it's probably still kind of 7 points a weekend. So, look, he still made up 3 this weekend. If he can get a few points in the sprints, it's still possible. It's going to be difficult, and it's all going to come down to how Austin goes, like the upgrade goes. But given that they brought an upgrade that they think went really well this weekend and Max still struggled, I think, Singapore is going to really...
Let's talk about Max, isn't it? I mean, what the fuck happened this weekend?
I think that Red Bull are in a difficult situation here, right? Because I think the problem is they're going to have to make a huge compromise this season, because it seems more and more to me that essentially they were complacent with the mechanical platform of their car coming into this year, because all of these issues were pointed out by Newey, Verstappen, by Checo, by various drivers or various people in Red Bull last year, not pundits, like actual Red Bull staff last year. Obviously, Jos brought it up several times this year, but that's just Jos throwing fire on an already exploding house and being a moron. But all of them brought it up last year, and it feels more and more to me that Red Bull essentially were like, let's save the money because there's no way these teams are going to catch up in 2024 at this rate anyway, and we can fix all these issues for 2025, which gives us an advantage for 2026. And I think that complacency has just screwed them this year. And I think now the problem is they're compromising where the only way to fix this is to change the downforce balance, which is going to go towards understeer, which is a problem for Max. So I think they're between a rock and a hard place now. And as soon as you bring in understeer, you've got Perez in a situation where, 1, he prefers understeer, and 2, he's just good at this track or these tracks anyway. Understeer in these sorts of tracks works out for you because you need to balance the car in a certain way not to hit walls. So it tends to suit Checo regardless. That's why he's like king of the street tracks. So we'll need to see in Austin, but Yeah, I don't think Singapore is going to be much better for Max either. I think it's going to be worse, to be honest, because even with the dominant car in both 2022 and 2023, Max struggled compared to Perez even in that track. Like 2023,
2022 was just a strategy thing, right? He would have won if it was not
potentially. It was the qualifying threw it away, right? But then he couldn't come through the field. 2023, Perez was ahead of him, right? If I remember correctly.
No.
Where? Oh no, Perez was 7th. He was 5th, right? Something like that. Or, yeah. But yeah, I think if he struggled last year, I can't see them being better this year. Like, I just can't. So
yeah, me neither. I don't. I think it's a bit weird because Max Verstappen's lap in Q2 was stunning. He was, I think, 2 to 3 tenths ahead of Checo, and it appeared he had the car under him. But as soon as they reached Q3, the car just went completely out of whack. I think another thing that hurt him was the off on the last the turn 16, where he probably went over the curb and damaged the floor, which hurt his qualifying, and that basically carried over into the race where he had no. I think he talked about not having the balance or the feel with the car.
Yeah,
but
these tires weren't gripping for him either. He was getting no bite on them. Yeah.
Remember, these were the same kind of issues that he even highlighted last season in Baku. He wasn't happy with the car even then when Checo won.
But literally all of these issues were pointed out last year. This is why it screams to me of complacency. It's like the team basically, okay, yeah, we know we have these issues, we know we have these balance issues, but if we change those, we need to change the entire mechanical platform, which is just a ton of money, research, development. And realistically, these guys aren't going to catch us in 12 months anyway because we're so far ahead. So let's just work on that for 2025, give ourselves... it screams to me of complacency because I don't understand why they wouldn't change it when they know they have the issues, unless they simply thought we're far enough ahead, it's not going to matter.
Or maybe the chassis are too limited.
Maybe that's what I mean. Like they basically were trying to continue on what they had to peak downforce. So, which is what they've kind of got to now. So, this would have been perfect.
That's why the balance is struggling right now.
Yeah, so you've got to peak downforce. You should have had a big window where you could kind of move around and fix those balance issues. But unexpectedly, McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes at some tracks are now within touching distance where you no longer can move that balance around without really hurting yourself. I just don't. We need to see what happens in Austin, but I just don't think they're going to be able to fix it with some... I think it's a fundamental issue that they have, and I think they can probably do damage limitation, but it's not going to be... I don't think it's going to be a race-winning car again this year, basically. Like, maybe it'll win a race if the others feck up, but...
Helmut Marko is very bullish, by the way.
But Helmut Marko is saying a lot of shit that I don't, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but
I don't even know if Helmut Marko is allowed in the factory anymore at this point, to be honest with you. Like, with the amount of stuff he's talking that just doesn't come true.
Yeah.
Like, he said Lawson would definitely be in the car, and then Horner said we're going to see about that. He said Checo would be out, and Horner came out and said no, he's not. He says all this stuff about the factory that then doesn't happen.
By the way, that's going to happen in Singapore. Apparently, high chance Daniel gets the boot. Whether it's for 2025 or whether it's for...
I don't see it because Daniel... I don't see it.
Seems like it. I mean, what I've heard.
I mean, it's 8-8 now in races for Tsunoda and Ricciardo, so that is...
Yeah, but the qualifying, he was 4 tenths down. And in the race, Tsunoda suffered from... Stroll losing his mind once again.
Tsunoda suffered from Stroll, basically.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah. No, Tsunoda's been really unlucky, but... I don't know. Yeah, when it comes to Max, I don't know. Like, I mean...
I think it was a one-off, if I'm being honest. I don't think it is something that will carry forward.
I think Singapore could be a two-off. I don't think Singapore is going to be much better, to be honest.
In terms of him... my worry was in terms of him being compared to Checo, because Checo made him look bad this weekend. Yeah. And I don't see the same thing happening in Singapore or stuff. The car might struggle. In Singapore specifically, it will struggle because that's a very harsh track for
I think in Singapore it's going to struggle, and they're going to have these balance issues. And I think just because
P7, P6
because of the balance where they are, though, I just think it just suits Checo inherently better anyway when it's in that format.
Yeah,
and he's more confident around street tracks in the car anyway. So I just think we're probably going to see the same thing next week or this week, and then it's going to, like, for me, the title question really can't be answered until Austin, because if Austin doesn't work, that's it. They just don't have enough time then to fix everything. You know, they've got that 4-week gap between Singapore and Austin. And if they can't fix it in that 4-week gap, it's really unlikely they're going to fix it before the end of the season. And then it's really out of Max's hands. It's down to whether Lando can perform, whether Oscar and Leclerc take points, like all this stuff. It's basically Max can only just do what the car will do, and then
P6, P5,
the rest is out of his hands.
Hope.
Yeah, just hope that the others screw everything up for themselves.
I agree. I kind of agree with you.
Not a great race for Max though in general.
I think he's had a few stinkers this season. Mm-hmm. This was a bad one. This was
the plus side, like I said about Oscar though, is I think the mental attitude that he had for the whole weekend, even when he was struggling, was quite good. Like, he didn't get down on it. He wasn't going mental at GP over the radio or anything. So I think he's
understood a lot of things. Yeah. He's made peace with that. Mm-hmm. And he's also maturing. I mean, he is a generational talent. And I think maybe, I'm not entirely sure if that would happen, but maybe there is a case of Max probably enjoying this phase, because now he's slowly getting into a zone where there will be competition. Mm-hmm. These guys have caught up, and maybe if next season Red Bull is back to being at least competitive enough, things are going to move in one direction or the other, and let's see what happens.
I think he's probably the type of driver, if he had 5 2023s, he'd probably be bored shitless, you know.
I doubt it.
Maybe not.
He was happy as fuck in 2023. He's like, everything should be the same. Yeah. But we would be bored as fuck. But that's a different story.
Maybe not him. Yeah.
And just talking about his teammate Sergio Perez, stunning weekend, by the way. Everything was perfect until that collision with Carlos Sainz. So what was your take on the whole thing?
The collision or the whole weekend?
The collision verdict. What's your verdict on the collision?
Yeah, like, for me, racing incident, I think both of them could have done better things. Like, obviously Perez fans or people who don't like Sainz are going mental, basically saying Sainz turned in on him. He did kind of lazily move to the left, but also part of that is also kind of how the track moves down that straight as well. The part where he looks bad is when he says what happened, where that kind of makes you go, oh, did you not know Checo was there? That's a bit iffy. But Checo did also... Yeah,
I think it could be the case, right? Because the peripheral vision, you can't really move
it's really
your head.
terrible in these cars. Like, really terrible. But then, there is the other side where Checo was also clearly hunting for that slipstream to try and pass him. Look, I think realistically... it's 50-50 for me, because both of them could have done better. Like, Checo realistically should know enough to go, okay, look, I'll kind of fall in behind him, or I'll keep going, but not that close, because he should know that could have ended in a race-ending incident. But I don't know. It's just a racing incident. I think both of them were just pushing him. This is just what happens sometimes. It doesn't change the fact that Perez had a really, really strong weekend.
This was his best weekend since last year's race in Baku.
Basically. Probably, yeah. But I kind of expected it as much, to be honest, as soon as we got into free practice. And the reason was, like, in free practice 2, I think it was, Max immediately was just complaining of understeer. And Perez seemed happy, and that for me was like, okay, this balance is going to suit Checo, and he loves this track anyway. So, you know, he could have won the race if it wasn't for Norris maybe holding him up, because if he had got out ahead of Oscar, he still would have had to contend with Leclerc, but...
Then Charles would have won the race.
Probably in that situation. But, you know, who knows? There's, you know... Especially given... I mean, Perez could have just lunged it anyway, because he has nothing to lose at this stage too. You know?
That is also there.
Unlikely, but maybe. I mean,
it could have.
Perez is
happened.
A good racer, as much as people want to say otherwise. He is, you know.
I mean, when he has the pace, I think he can hang it with almost.
When he has
everyone.
A car he's confident with, he is a very good driver. You know.
Yeah. I think this weekend showed
he's
that.
Better than Bottas. I think we can all agree on that.
I think Bottas finished behind Joe this weekend, so Good on him. I think he's out of Formula One anyways now. Like it's sad.
There's nowhere for him to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Ideally, I think if Sauber or Audi is smart, I think they should keep him, because the car is, look, the team is going to suck like anything in 2026. You just need experienced drivers in the team who can help build
if
things.
they could keep him for a 1-year contract, good idea. The problem is, I think Bottas, maybe after all of the 1-year contracts at Mercedes, might not look favourably on a 1-year contract at Sauber.
But then he's out of
But then if he has
Formula
no option, maybe,
Yeah.
Because if you just want 2 development drivers, then perfect for 2025. But I think maybe what Audi are looking at is they want to get some young driver in who can grow with the team, and Hulkenberg can be their kind of development special.
I really don't see the point in doing that when your car is going to be, let's face it, it's going to be at the back of the grid. A driver is not. You don't develop young drivers when you are basically a back marker. You develop a car with 2 experienced drivers.
I think they're not going to think of it that way in house, are they? Because
they should. If even at this stage they have not understood where the fuck they are in terms of the pecking order, I don't think they'll understand ever. Yeah, I mean, Bottas is 22 or 23 in a 20 grid, 20 driver grid.
Is Bottas 20? Oh my god! Yeah. Seriously? Is it that bad?
Yeah.
Oh my god! I didn't even notice that. Yeah, Bottas is 22nd in a. Oh Jesus! Yeah. Like Logan Sargent is ahead of Bottas in the championship.
Yeah. And that should basically look. Joe is ahead of him, so
I mean, it's there's the other thing, isn't it? Like, do you really? Like, I know. There's all context, but at the same time, like, if to be behind Joe just looks terrible. It looks really bad, you know.
Anyways, moving on to the next thing. Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes. Okay, I'll set the table for you, because I think I wrote something and I stand by it.
This section's gonna really upset some people.
Yeah,
remember, if you're not offended, don't subscribe. So if you're offended, you have to subscribe. So we should get at least 1 million subscribers from this section.
Yeah, I think that would work like a charm for us. If Lewis continues, first of all, I think it's high time he sits down and looks back at what has been going on in the entire season. It cannot be the case that I was great on Friday, all of a sudden something happened, some fugazi thing happened, and I'm behind. He's been in the sport for almost 20 years now. Is it 20? Yeah, 17, 18 years.
Plus, according to all of his fans, he was an engineer earlier this season. So he should understand this better.
And that's the thing, because what he's showing right now is, I don't think every time you can just put your hand up and say that the setup didn't work, it was experiment, it was this, that, because the bottom line is it's only been 4 races, I think, where he's out-qualified George. And I think 2 or 3 of them were when George had a power unit issue. Then there was one in Spa where wet weather helped. If he's doing this against George...
What is it? It's 12-4 now or something like that, or 13-4? Yeah.
13-4.
And in the races, I think it's like 10-6 or something.
11-6. Or 12-5, something like that. Yeah, and that's poor. That's basically.
There's no excuse for that. Like, you can't. Like, in 2022, you could have the one-off maybe experimental, which was bullshit. Let's be honest. They were both doing different setups at different times, but like, there's just no excuse for that this year. You know.
And I think it's a lot. It's become a habit. Every time if a weekend goes well for him, everything's fine, everything's perfect. If it doesn't, there's always something else to blame. It's only
kind of
once
maps to Mercedes as well, what I was saying earlier, which is Mercedes, when the weekend goes well, they understand the car, the development path's correct. And as soon as things go wrong, we don't understand the car, the tires are off. It's... Yeah,
but then at the same time, the second driver is on the podium. And he was
you mean the
half
number
a
one
second
driver?
faster.
Look, I'm sorry, but like, this season, Russell is the number 1 driver. Like,
he is.
You can't turn around all season in 2023 and like rightly give Hamilton credit for an incredible 2023 season, but then perfectly by rights, this has been George's season. George has been the better driver, and the only area where George isn't beating Hamilton is on points. And that's not really of his own fault. Like,
Two races where George suffered a DNF or no score was the races that Lewis won.
Through no
That's
fault
a
of his
50
own,
point.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, so...
And that's a 50 point swing.
Swing, yeah. So, being
I think
4 tenths down is...
Look, I always thought that Charles would get the better of him. Now I'm worried that it's not going to be a good...
you know what?
It's not going to be a good look.
I thought that it was going to be interesting because given that, like, Bottas beat Hamilton a third of the time in qualifying, George has been a brilliant qualifier. Look, people will say Hamilton has 104 poles. Sure, but look at the cars he was driving. The thing is, if you look at Lewis's teammates, qualifying has, in my opinion anyway, never been the strongest part of Hamilton's weekend. Races have been, right? Races... Hamilton, to give him full credit, in the races where it counts, let's be honest, Hamilton has always been spectacular in the right machinery.
But the thing is,
the problem is
what comes naturally, right? That's a natural talent doing the job.
But the problem here is you've got a situation where two things are happening. One, he's now going to face drivers that are also spectacular in races. He's facing one right now, which is Russell. People keep talking about Russell as some sort of qualifying specialist. Then why is he ahead of Hamilton in every race? I'll tell you why. Because he's brilliant in the races. And also, we're no longer in a situation where the cars have this huge advantage all the time. So if you're qualifying down the back, you're not catching anymore. You can't run through the field. Like, you know... Like Norris going from 15th to 4th was incredibly impressive because that is so difficult right now. It's not, you know, you can't just, this isn't 2020 or 2021. You can't just cut through the field like you used to in a faster car. So I think my concern for Hamilton, well, not concern for Hamilton, but anyone who thinks that Hamilton's going to have this brilliant season next year is that everything is going to work against him because as we've talked about, Leclerc's gotten better in the races. Leclerc is still an incredible qualifier. Leclerc is embedded in that team, and it's also a situation where the cars are likely going to be even closer next year, which means if you have a bad qualifying, you're not coming through the field anymore. Your weekend is fucked unless you do something really special.
Yeah.
And I think if he's having a hard time against Russell right now, in his team, like I know it's going to start moving towards Russell, but Hamilton has been in this team. He knows how it works. He's going to absolutely suffer massively next year in Ferrari. Like,
and good luck blaming the team after every weekend.
They will, but you know, as we know logically, you can't do that. It's up to you to kind of.
Not only that, do you think Ferrari will take that shit lying down? If you're going to blame the team after every weekend,
they won't take up a contract again with him. Like, I mean, they dumped Vettel because Vettel realistically just said a couple of bad things after the 2019 cheating. That's when it all kind of obviously it was a different situation.
I think it was more a case of Binotto. I think it was more a case of Vettel being a Riva Bene guy, and Binotto wanted to start his own thing.
Yeah, but also in the same situation. If you've got a situation where Leclerc is just whitewashing Hamilton, and then Hamilton's going and having all of these kind of minions on Twitter basically blaming the team and being a really bad look for Ferrari, clearly at some point Ferrari's going to say, right, we're getting nothing but bad articles written about us, and he's losing to his teammate. Why are we keeping this guy and paying him $100 million a year? Like, it won't make sense because the whole point of the $100 million is, it'll sell cars. If you have a load of people talking shit about Ferrari online, that's not selling cars. So, sorry, you're gone. You're not bigger than F1 or bigger than Ferrari, regardless of what F1 Twitter stands like to say.
And you have to understand one thing. And again, one mini prediction, the kind of shit that George has been put through by the entire fan base, everything is going to happen to Leclerc and Ferrari as well next season because nothing is going to change on that front.
Yeah. And they're going to have the entire British media biased towards them again, against them as well. Like, you know, it's going to be...
Sky doesn't learn. I cannot believe the kind of nonsense that... The way Newey put the entire Sky thing on blast was hilarious. But the funniest thing was...
The reaction was hilarious. Yeah.
I mean, that's why...
What he said was perfectly reasonable. It was just... These guys did demonize Seb. We watched that. I saw them demonize Seb.
It's as clear as day.
They did the same thing to Max, or been
Still
doing
doing
this,
it.
still doing the same
They're
thing.
still
to Max.
doing that.
He just pointed out something that all of us know happens, like all of us talk about all the time, and the reaction was just to basically do exactly what he said, which was, we'll demonize him now, you know. And it was like, you're not really helping your case here. You're basically proving his point that he criticizes your media, and your response is to demonize him. Kind of just proved his point, didn't you? But yeah,
I think the funniest thing was on one side you had this interview from Newey. It came out and he said these things, and during the Aston Martin launch and everything, you had 2 questions that were allowed by Sky had the opportunity to ask. Both time they asked the same fucking question. Why didn't you go to Ferrari and work with Lewis? It was asked once, but then if you're going to come back and ask the same thing again, it's... Come on, man. There's so much else that you could have asked.
Yeah.
It's so focused on one thing, and again, it's so nationalistic. It is. It's too much Brit. And again, if you want to do that, do it. Yeah. And you're not a global you're just not a global broadcaster in that case.
What's crazy at the moment though is the bashing of of Russell compared to Hamilton, when like a lot of the time when Russell is, as many people may forget, also British. Like, you know, it doesn't make any sense. Like
but it's not from the fan. It's not from the media, right?
No,
it's from
that's
the fan
from the
base.
fans. Yeah,
yeah.
But then again, the media as well. Like, there's been some comments on Sky about Russell that have really. The thing is, like, I find myself constantly.
Oh no,
the same.
You have not seen the clip. There's this clip from Sky Sports where it's, I think, Craig Slater, Martin Brundle, and Nico Rosberg. And Craig Slater is, I think it was during the time when Kimi Antonelli was announced. And Craig Slater just pitched the question that, okay, 2026, George does not have a contract. So there is possibly a shootout between Kimi and George, who is to see who is going to team up with Max in 2026. And George's seat might be in danger. And Martin went on this rant and he said that, no, that's not how they'll think, because you have 2 drivers that are already doing the job. If George is already doing the job, why would Mercedes even think about spending tens of millions of dollars for a Max Verstappen? Because it doesn't really work like that. It doesn't really work that way. Rosberg standing next to him said, I disagree. I completely disagree. If Max is available, you put him in the car. Doesn't matter how much money there is.
Yeah.
And with that, everything kept quiet. And that's why Nico Rosberg does not appear too often on the Sky broadcast.
I just, like, but it's some things on Sky that I've heard where, especially talking about the wins this year, you know, like, it's like, it's like, Austria was handed to him. It's like, yeah, like, you can say that, that's fine. But by the same logic, you also have to say that a lot of the Silverstone win was luck, because McLaren threw it away and Red Bull threw it away. Literally, he was given the win because Russell's win was taken away in Belgium.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, like, you can't just have one and not the other when both are logically correct. Both of them were helped out by circumstance in those situations. So, you know, like, I get that the Austria one was a bit more clear cut because it was 2 drivers crashing in front of them. But you still can't just completely go, well, you know, that really doesn't count, does it? Like, it's basically how it comes across. And that, I found myself constantly this year, I'm not like some crazy, like, Norris, Russell or Leclerc fan, but I always find myself, when people start bashing on a driver undeservedly, I'm always like, no, fuck this, I'm going to defend them then, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I find myself doing
the same
that
thing
with
is
Russell
happening
this
with
year.
me right now, and apparently a lot of Max Verstappen fans, they are not happy with me. I've seen a lot of comments.
I'm getting blocked by Verstappen fans for just pointing out the fact that when they were smashing the Hamilton fans for doing the exact same thing, I was with them saying, yeah, this is ridiculous, Hamilton fans should shut up about it. So now when I'm criticizing you for doing the same thing to Norris or to Russell, it's like, well, guys, you can't, like, complain about someone else doing it and then do the exact same thing and not expect to get criticized. You know?
And I wrote about it, right? I mean, I simply said that whatever toxicity was, a bunch of Verstappen fans have started acting like the Team LH fans of the past.
Yeah.
It's the same toxicity, just the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the fan base, honestly.
Just staying on the Russell thing, look, if Russell hasn't, like, there's only 2 ways to look at Russell this season, basically. Like, either Russell is a spectacular driver who is now at the same height as Hamilton and is pushing him. Or Hamilton has really dropped off, and that's why Russell is destroying him in every metric other than points, as we said, which is just unlucky. But like, there's no other way to look at it. Either Hamilton has massively dropped off, and that's why Russell is beating him, or Russell is just as good as everyone expected Russell to be, and he's beating Hamilton on merit now. Like,
What's your view? What's your take on why Lewis has been struggling this much this season?
I think there's various reasons for it. One of them, the reasons I think is just as drivers age, even the spectacular Alonso, who has been incredible, you know, the younger drivers are getting better as the older drivers are declining. That is just a simple fact of it. So Hamilton's not driving as brilliantly as he was in 2018, in my opinion. He's still driving incredibly well, just not as good as he was at 2018. And I think that for years now, we've seen that Russell has had this potential, and we're just seeing that Russell now is just better at this at the minute. You know, he's just a better driver at the minute. But like, it's not like Hamilton is absolutely washed or anything. It's just that the car is in different places and bouncing from race to race, and Russell just gets his head down and gets on with that. And I think Hamilton, I think there's two elements to it, to put it simply and not go on a massive rant. The two main elements, in my opinion, are Russell is now at that kind of level in terms of driving ability. Just, you know, unfortunately hasn't had some luck and so on. But I also think there's the other side where, like with Piastri and Norris, there's a big mentality there where Russell has never had a like dominant car, so he just gets on with the job. Whereas for Hamilton, this is like, how the fuck has my career gone this way? You know, like with Norris,
I think that's
Piastri
what I tend to end up with. You know, there was this former Mercedes engineer. Okay, by the way, just to point one thing out, because if there's a Lewis Hamilton fan who watches this thing, he's going to be infuriated. Apparently, there was a part that was broken or something was malfunctioning with Lewis during qualifying, and that played a contributing role. But we're talking about this thing in general because his qualifying form this season has been poor. Just pathetic, honestly.
There's no way to really, like, you know, it's just, it is what it is. Like, he's admitted to it himself. He said my qualifying hasn't been good this year.
But the thing is, there have been too many excuses. Too many times he's either insidiously placed the blame on the team, or there has been a lot of this thing where, okay, this happened. It's everything but himself. And I think if he keeps this attitude up, it's not going to help him. Because he's even gone ahead and said that these cars don't suit my driving style. Okay, fine. You've driven through, I think, 4 or 5 different regulations. All of a sudden, now the cars don't suit your driving style. Because he's been there with the groove tires, with the slicks, with basically the off throttle, the OBD, and the turbo era, everything. Then the car was fine. But now all of a sudden, when your teammate is beating you comprehensively, now the car doesn't suit you. Yeah. It's just excuses right now, and you have to be very. He has to be very honest, because next season, the
simple fact is, like, if the car performance doesn't suit him, then like, why in 2023 when he was beating Russell was none of this an issue? You know? So like, it is kind of a convenient excuse, but also it's like, okay, well, if the car doesn't suit you, then I mean 2025 is not going to suit you, and 2026 is going probably in a similar direction. So I mean, if you're not going to suit, then you're basically admitting to yourself, well, this 8 championship's not going to come then, because these cars aren't going to suit me. So you know, I might as well get out of here while my legacy's intact and not
because it's getting it's reaching a point where
you know? Like, and even the almighty Schumacher, when, like, as much as we all love him, the time in Mercedes did kind of affect, like, not massively, but it did kind of go, well, he's not the same guy anymore. That's gone.
I mean, he wasn't.
But like, my point
he
is,
also came back with a neck injury and everything. So
sure, and there's plenty of reasons for it, but people just go, like, he probably should have just left it.
You know, again, they don't know the sport. They are basically very, very, pretty much focused on stats.
The problem with that is, if you continue going around like this, instead of kind of leaving at your peak, it doesn't matter for F1 as such. But the problem Lewis is going to face is he wants to do all of these things outside of F1. And if he continues to kind of tarnish that legacy, when he goes to do those things outside of F1, it's going to just not look as, the impact's not going to be as big. Like Vettel, if Vettel had to step down in 2014 and gone on to do other things, the impact he could have had was amazing. Like, look at, people forget so quickly how good people are, because look at Kimi Räikkönen. How many, like, especially younger fans, obviously, but how many newer fans, like, look at Kimi in his last years in the Alfa Romeo or in last years in Ferrari and go, why was this guy so incredible? Like, he, and understandably, because I'm like, if you look at Kimi in the Aston or in the Alfa Romeo, it's like, he should have just left. But Kimi didn't give a shit. He was just getting a check to do something fun for himself. That's who he was.
I mean, he had to fund Robin's racing career, so it
but
made all
this
the
is
sense.
the thing. Like, you can say, like, I'll say stuff like this, and I know the argument will be, we can't compare a Kimi Räikkönen to a Lewis Hamilton. No, you can. Like, the same thing will happen to Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton is not some superhuman. He is an incredible Formula One driver. But if he continues on and goes to Ferrari and flounders and gets destroyed,
his Formula One career will be, if he ends up losing to Leclerc. I think he will. He will be losing to Leclerc. He might lose to George in the head-to-head. He's already lost a season to him.
Yeah.
He lost to Rosberg in the championship. He lost to Button as well. That's 4 different drivers. And how in what possible world are you going to make claims of him being the GOAT? That's where he stands.
Yeah. Whereas
it just ends.
Like, the thing for Schumacher is, like, the stint at Mercedes wasn't that long. And it was clearly not the same Schumacher and so on. Like, that was just that. But Hamilton kind of pushing for this narrative of, I'm sticking around to get my 8th. I think at some point you need to realize, look, it's just not going to happen.
Gone.
You know, like, it's just.
I think even if it might, the problem is right now. One thing that becomes very clear is, George is very intrinsically part of the team, and he's part of the very technical stuff. That's why he's probably not struggling with the car behavior changing as much as it does.
Yeah.
Lewis isn't, and that is a big difference. He never was
in 2021,
and he made up for it because
in 2021. Remember, he said it was like the first time in the simulator.
First time he did the simulator.
Years, like he never does these sessions. He like jumps in at the start of the season to give them a lap time, and then that's it. Like, he said that. So he's never been that driver. Like,
and
people
that's
say,
what is
he
hurting him
developed
right
the Mercedes, and it's like, by his own admission, he's not that driver.
Come on. Anyways, enough of Lewis and everything. I think one thing to wrap up the Baku thing, the rookies, Franco Colapinto and Ollie Bearman.
Well, Franco Colapinto might as well. I think he should get the Mercedes drive instead of Kimi Antonelli for next year. Franco Colapinto, first of all, incredibly impressive. I'm not going to lie. It also has.
If he, I don't know what his future holds.
Can I ask you something? After watching him in F2 for a couple, I didn't watch a load of F2, but I watched F2 before there was any talk about him joining. And every time I watched him in F2, I was like, oh, this guy's quietly impressive. Yeah. And when they announced him, it was like, oh, this is a bit weird. I thought they would have gone, but then I wasn't really that shocked by it. It was like, oh, a bit strange, but. And then when it was like, oh, how will he get on? What if another rookie? You guys are crazy. I was kind of like, I think this guy's going to be all right. Like, because he's a capable pair of hands. So as good as it's been, I'm also not really that surprised, if that makes sense. It's kind of like, I thought he'd be good. He's better than he's probably better than I expected, but I'm not shocked by it, to be honest. He's got the right attitude as well. Like, he's kind of got that calm, collected, just focused attitude, and
he's got that South American riz. And he's
actually from South America, helmet, by the way, because Mexico's not in South America, but Argentina is. And in case you're watching, and look, if he sticks around in Formula One, again, it's just one race, so probably we should not jump our guns. But if he does stick in Formula One, he's going to be a big star, just like Checo was, because that part of the world is very passionate when it comes to something like this. This could end the tension.
He's coming from the world of Fangio. He's coming from that country, and that country is. I mean, we know how passionate Argentinians are, so really, it's by the way, just one note of caution, probably for both the drivers when it comes to Baku. Baku is and I think I had a discussion with this about this with someone, that look, if we only saw the race in Baku and we had zero context of everything before and after, we might have some very weird conclusions that we'll make about Formula One.
Yeah.
In our view, Sergio Perez would be the brilliant driver. Probably Lewis Hamilton would be shit driver, and Max Verstappen is probably the second driver at Red Bull.
Yeah.
That's how things would look. So maybe one race is probably not the best way to judge everything. Yeah. Having said that, the fact that both of these drivers jumped into a Formula One car, I think one was 2 races old, one is he just came in, and the job that they did, that's
it's
alarming for Alex as well.
Talk about Behrman in a minute, but Colapinto, first of all, I think what's most impressive about it is, like, when Monza happened, I was impressed by his form, but it was also like, okay, well, it is Monza.
Kept the nose clean, yeah.
Nick De Vries did decently in Monza last year, and we know how that turned out. But you know what the difference was? Even in his first race, he was still quite close to Alex, and he was kind of, he was managing the tires, all that sort of stuff. Nick De Vries wasn't that close to Alex, if I remember correctly.
He replaced Alex. He was.
Sorry, yeah. So never mind. He beat Latifi, so it's not a right call. That's the difference. I was trying to think to myself. I was like, this is impressive because he's so close to Alex, and then wondering how close was Nick De Vries, and I was like, it wasn't close because I don't remember where Alex was, but he wasn't there. But yeah, like in Baku and in Monza, he's been quite close, and even just the crash he had in FP1 and the fact that he just head down, continued on with it, didn't let it get to him, and finished, was it 2 seconds or 3 seconds off of Alex at the end, something like that?
Yeah, again, the whole safety car, VSC.
There was VSC, all these things, sure. Yeah. But the fact that he was like right there, given how good we think Alex is, I mean, hopefully this isn't the situation where it ends up, we find out with Sainz next year that, Alex wasn't actually that good all along, I don't think we will. I think Alex is like that caliber. I think we've seen enough there. But
I mean, we've seen that. Yeah, that's
really, really impressive from Colapinto though. And I think him and Lawson, if he continues on this form, I think him and Lawson have both shown that they deserve at least a chance in the midfield, and then see where it goes from there. I reckon Colapinto maybe has a chance at more potential than Lawson, personally. Just after seeing him in F2.
I agree. I think it's been more impressive. I agree with you.
But at the same time, I think two of them young, capable drivers that probably deserve a shot in F1 for a full season at least. It's just where do they go? Because, but yeah.
There are no seats left.
Behrman, incredibly impressive.
Wait. Before we go to Behrman, if you're James Vowles, assuming Colapinto does something similar to what he did in Baku for the rest of the 6 races.
On for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In that case, how does James Vowles proceed with Colapinto?
I think the thing
I think there's a high chance he cannot race in Formula 2, by the way.
Yeah, maybe not. The thing I think James Vowles needs to do here is if James Vowles is pushing to get him in Sauber, I would imagine getting him in Sauber will be kind of a similar to most of these deals at first.
Happen.
No,
that
I don't think
happen.
it will, to be honest, at this stage. But let's say
Bortoleto is about to win the championship, right? So he'll get the. Yeah.
Let's say it happens. I think it'll probably be a similar kind of Alex Albon to Williams situation in the first place, where it's kind of done as like a loan agreement to kind of figure things out.
Kind of thing, yeah.
Because I think for James Vowles, he probably will help, but maybe he'll kind of hope it doesn't happen, because having Colapinto around and then maybe see where you can get kind of loan him to later is just, if he continues like this, is the perfect person to have in case a seat opens up for Alex or Sainz. So you go, okay, sure, we're losing a big name, but at least we've got a capable pair of hands in the interim to keep us going. It's a very good situation to be in for a team like Williams.
You think it's a good situation to be in, or it's a bit of a headache?
I think it's a good situation because
I don't think he wants to let go of Colapinto if this is the talent that he
No, definitely not. But at the same time,
how will he hold on to him?
I think at the moment he's probably in a beautiful situation of, where does he go? Like for 2025, he doesn't go anywhere.
This season,
this is a headache for 2026. I think for the driver market for 2026. For 2025, it's not really a headache, and I just think for Williams to keep him in 2025 as a reserve or whatever way they work this is brilliant, because it means that there is a good chance that for 2026, Max or Sainz or someone could be moving around, and we could end up with a silly season next year of drivers again. Even though people are on contracts, contracts mean nothing in F1. Right?
Yeah,
If Sainz or Alex, if Sainz or Alex goes, neither do I. But for Vowles, if Sainz or Alex are going to go somewhere, it's probably going to happen for 2026. So having Colapinto there is probably great insurance for Vowles at the moment to go, right, well, at least in that eventuality, we've got a capable pair of hands still, you know, who's been in the car, who's been working with the team. I think it's a good situation for both of them. It could quickly turn into a nightmare, but at the moment, I think it's a good situation.
Yeah,
And
because
I think they
for
need
me,
that.
the problem is and again, James Vowles has probably lugged into the situation probably not because he picked Colapinto last season for the Williams Driver Academy, so he was there. Look, if Colapinto is someone who is showing the kind of speed he did in just his second race without any testing or anything, his upside is probably going to be higher than Albon.
Yeah.
I think we can safely say that. And if
There's a good
Albon
chance,
is
yeah.
and if Albon is a driver who is probably on a long-term contract with Williams, and Carlos Sainz comes in, look, I don't think Carlos Sainz and Albon will be differentiated by much, maybe a little, but
We'll see.
It's
We'll see.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you don't want to lose Colapinto. That's what I'm getting at. And maybe if tomorrow, let's assume there's a scenario where Colapinto outperforms Albon in the rest of the races. Let's assume in that particular scenario, Red Bull comes calling and takes Colapinto, puts him in RB.
Yeah.
They can offer him the money and they just give him a way out, because that would be very impressive.
They
In
should
that
think
scenario,
about doing it
James
maybe
is
as well.
low.
Yeah.
And in that situation, James is losing a very, very good driver who he probably has groomed a little.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I don't know. This seems,
He's lugged into a situation which is
I think it also
good
seems
and
like
bad.
he looked into having him in the first place, but I think I was wondering why at the time, like, you know, he would put a rookie in, considering crash damage from a rookie essentially was their issue. Now, to me, it just feels more calculated. It's like, okay, we think this guy could be the real deal, so let's string this out and confirm he's the real deal. Because then what that does is essentially gives James, like I said, at least half of 2025 to kind of figure out, okay, is Sainz going to be a long-term player here, or is he just kind of, you know what I mean? Because, like, Sainz will probably be at Williams for a while, but we just know that if a seat opens up, like if Max does jump for 2026 and Red Bull are in a sticky situation where Sainz is their best option, Sainz is going to, I know that's like a lot of things need to happen for that to happen, but Sainz is definitely going to jump to Red Bull out of the Williams in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I mean, look,
gone.
if any of the driver gets that option, probably is.
For Vowles to kind of go, right, well, look, we can't probably afford a big name driver to replace Sainz, but we know that Colapinto did a good job. We've tested it. We know he's there. Let's get him in there. Done. You know, we're sorted. We're not in a situation. I think this is kind of a calculated move from him just to go, let's make sure this is the case. And then at least we know we have our insurance. You know, sorry, a fly just landed on my head.
That's all right. Okay, just a word for Williams as well. That car is improving like anything. And again, they might be an outside contender for P6 because until P5, Aston has kind of sealed it.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens, because the way they are going, it's going to be very interesting. And especially now when they have two drivers that are actually getting points, so it gets even better. Yeah. Talking about Ollie, oh God, he's some talent, isn't he?
He's kind of just. This is going to sound really gay. He's everything I expected him to be. He just, honestly, again, it's just not surprising after what he did. And like a lot of, there was a lot of people bashing it, like, oh, he should be higher in the Ferrari when he was in Saudi. You know, again, there's a lot of morons who watch this sport, apparently. Because look, jumping into that Ferrari, especially at that track with, you know, very little experience in F1, knowing, as we've seen with Piastri, how hard it is with tires and everything, that was impressive. I think this was even more impressive because you've got another track that is tricky. Mistakes can be made. We've seen a lot of them. Sainz and Perez, you know, things can happen. And in a Haas and get in the points. and be quite close to Hülkenberg as well, who
Yeah.
both of us rate very highly. And I think for both of these drivers, that's what makes it so impressive. Like
Yeah.
if their teammate were different people, like if he was jumping in alongside Lance Stroll and beat him, you'd be like, eh. But when these guys are like jumping in,
Even
and
that would be impressive.
It would be, yeah.
Still,
But but when it's a Hülkenberg and an Albon, even
Yeah,
if you're not
they
beating
are
them,
good.
if you're close to them,
Yeah.
these are known quantities. We know how good
Yeah.
they are. Jumping in for an off weekend and doing that is really
I think
impressive.
overall, I think this we can kind
Haas
of
must be
confirm that.
really happy, by the way,
Yeah.
because
Overall, they've got an upgrade.
yeah, but
because
also I think Gene probably would have been a bit iffy about rookies in the car again. Just after, I know they're different calibers, but I'm sure even in his mind, it's like
I think it
sure,
wasn't him who had any issues. It was basically Gunther, and
maybe
Gunther is
yeah,
out.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I think
so
for them,
that's- yeah.
this probably is like okay, we're not going to have those
He's good.
issues.
Yeah.
So-
Again, Kevin was he has his good days and he's fun to have in Formula
Yeah,
One.
yeah.
But Ollie is probably going to do better than whatever Kevin
Magnussen's
did.
kind of like Ocon for me, where on his good days he's really good, but unfortunately there's a lot of off days as well. I know we disagree a bit on Ocon, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, that's enough of Baku. Next up, we have Singapore. Let's get to Singapore preview. First of all, I know my worst moment, and probably you have the same one. So we're not even going to touch on that. 2017. The best moment for you, Singapore.
I mean, there was a really just amazing win by Alonso back in
2010.
2008.
Oh shit.
Where he just
you
won
went
that
there.
race on merit. Fantastic. I mean,
There's
people are
actually-
still
there's
talking
actually a
about
video
that.
clip, by the way. There's actually a video clip of it where Alonso is in the cool down room and Flavio is standing next to him, and Alonso is saying that safety car was perfect. It came at the right time.
Yeah, I mean,
And Flavio's like,
people
"Mate,
are
just shut up."
people are still talking about it today. It might be talking about it in court, but they're still
Yeah,
talking
still
about
talking.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm trying to
God.
think. Actually, there was an incredible. Was it 2017? I'm trying to think. No, it was during the Red Bull days.
Let's not
Sorry.
talk about 2017.
No, forget about 2017. What I'm talking about is the. It was Singapore, right? Where I'm not going crazy here. Where Vettel did one lap and then sat in the garage and got pole. Was that Singapore? It wasn't Malaysia, was it?
Yeah,
Just Singapore.
2013.
2013, yes, yeah. I was trying to, in my head, I was like, it wasn't Malaysia because it was a night race. So it was definitely Singapore.
Yeah.
But yeah, just he sat did one lap, went into the garage, sat around, got pole. Like,
Yeah.
what a legend. People really forget how good Vettel was. It's just so good.
I mean, just
Unbelievably good.
We are, by the way, for the viewers, there's going to be one episode where we are going to talk about a lot of these things. There's going to be a sort of debate kind of structure. We might bring a few Hamilton fans on board as well.
Oh, is this the tier level?
Might have Ahmed. We might bring him back.
Yeah.
We've had him once, anyways. So yeah, that's going to be fun. I mean, we have a 3 to 4 week break, so we'll mix
But
things
yeah.
up a bit.
2008 was a great year, but yeah, 2013 Vettel. If I had to pick favorite moment, it would probably be that pole from Vettel, just because I was a
That's
huge
just-
Vettel
yeah.
stan at the time, so it was just
Yeah.
beautiful. But then I clearly don't remember,
Remember
it
the
that
race?
much because I forgot which year it was and which track it was. So
I mean, that's just old age, buddy.
I've watched so many races now.
By
I've
the
been
way,
watching
you
races
probably
before
don't
Max
remember that
Verstappen
race
was
as
on the
well,
track.
if I'm not wrong.
Hmm?
You don't remember that race either, if I'm not wrong.
Which one?
2013.
No.
Because in
Off
that
the top of my head,
race, Vettel had to make another pit stop and everyone else did. He was in the lead and there was a safety car and something that happened.
Yeah.
So there was around a period of, I think he had to pull out a gap of 20 plus seconds in 14 to 15 laps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he went on a rampage. I mean, that was... I
Do
just
you remember
just
at
let
the
it be.
time as well? Like at the time, there was so much of a
Negativity.
narrative around Vettel that Vettel can only win from pole, and then you watch that and you watch like him at Brazil, just like passing drivers and just wheel to wheel racing, and just he was fucking amazing. Anyone who looks back and just go, oh, you can only win from pole.
The
just
drive
morons.
in Brazil in 2012 is so underrated.
Yeah.
With a damaged car, the way he just... Yeah, he is one of the all-time great talents in
Fantastic.
Formula 1.
Yeah.
And honestly, if he was a British driver, he would have been given much more accolades than he has been.
There's a reason why the two of us, I think, when it comes to Hamilton going to Ferrari, have, like, at the start where Ferrari was, I was like, oh, this will be really interesting. The more I think about Hamilton at Ferrari, the more I'm like, this is going to be terminal for him. Because I've lived through Vettel at Ferrari, and it was so excruciating to watch all year. Because every year there was it could happen. And then it just, you know, like that Simpsons clip where it's like you can actually see the moment where his heart breaks.
Yeah.
Every year, watch. This is why
2017 Ferrari. 2017 Singapore Grand Prix is basically that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the race where I gave up. Nothing's going to work.
The day my heart broke and I thought about quitting F1 was Hockenheim with
2018, yeah.
Yeah.
And before that, I was shouting on the television that tell Kimi to let Vettel through.
Yeah.
He cost him 8 to 9 seconds, 2 Lewis, and
by the way, this Singapore preview is going really well.
Anyways, coming back to Singapore, for me, I think 2013.
I think the two of us could have a full Vettel episode sometime.
Yeah, we might. We might bring Peter on as well, because I think he was also very sad.
He's a massive Vettel fan as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and even I remember when Vettel retired, he sat down and did the entire,
let's try
3 hours
Vettel
something. I can't even get Karun Chandok on. Vettel is a far-fetched hope in any which way.
Apparently he's in a motorhome right now driving through Norway or something. So
yeah, something like I think Newey talked about it. Yeah.
But yeah, Singapore.
Anyways, I think even in for me 2013 Singapore Grand Prix was fun. I think we've had a few where things have been very interesting. Ferrari Vettel's first, I don't know, it was the third win with Ferrari, but in 2015.
His first win in 2015 was Malaysia, right? I think that's where I was
first was
confused.
Malaysia, second was Hungary, third was this. So, but this one was utter dominance where he secured pole position and just dominated the entire race. Yeah. That was also one of the...
It's a cool track
as well. Honestly.
It's a really cool track. It's a really cool kind of... It's a weird atmosphere. Like, it's a very unique place, you know.
It's basically Monaco, but much better, but good, honestly. Yeah. And at night.
I love Monaco, but it is better than Monaco,
Yeah.
Especially now especially last year when it was the only race where someone outside of Red Bull won.
That's
going to be very different this year, I think.
Yeah.
Well, no, it would be the same, actually. Sorry.
It would be the same. I don't think Red Bull wins.
No.
What do you expect the pecking order to be? Something similar?
I think it's going to be another track where it's a toss-up between Ferrari and McLaren for me. You know, Mercedes won't be strong around here. I think what we've seen is Mercedes are really good in high speed, but when it comes to the low speed stuff, like they're just... Russell will be strong, Hamilton maybe not, but then Russell... but then...
I mean, how does
Russell will then bottle it,
Hamilton bashing exercise?
I know, yeah. But then Russell will bottle it because he bottles everything, like he did last year. No, I think it's going to be McLaren versus Ferrari. I think, though, this is going to be one where I don't know why I expect the McLaren drivers to have the edge this weekend. I just think so. And I would imagine this is going to be our first glimpse at Norris and Piastri and the new papaya rules.
We might see that.
You know what I think, though? I have a feeling that basically, I think kind of as much as Piastri got closer because of Baku, I have a feeling that we're going to see Piastri be helpful if the championship's on.
Yeah, he would. I don't think he's a disruptor.
I think even solidified after Baku, where there's like, you know, there's no question that like next year Piastri's going to be right there.
Yeah.
The whole vibe from Piastri
the only
and
question
Norris
for
and
the Piastri camp should be that will McLaren be right there?
Yeah,
because who knows? Yeah,
I think the question will be if it's a 1-2 with Piastri leading, that's going to be the real test. You know, if it's a start where it's 2-3 with Leclerc ahead, I think in that situation, from everything I saw of them after Baku and the whole energy around the team, I think in that situation it's going to be a very easy, okay, let's let Norris through to chase down Leclerc for the championship, and I think it'll happen. The big question will be if it's a 1-2 when Piastri's ahead, that's going to be more kind of, okay, where does this go?
If it's going to happen or not.
But yeah, I think McLaren should have the edge this weekend, but I do think Ferrari will be right there.
I guess so. I'm not sure where Mercedes will be, because I don't think even Mercedes is sure where they will be.
No, so this is not a track this year that's... Like, this isn't a track that should suit Mercedes, but then it shouldn't have really suited them last year either. But I genuinely think...
Aston was nice, yeah.
Yeah, I from everything I've seen of them this year, I think it's a different situation where the Ferrari and McLaren, I think, should be far afield of the Mercedes this year. Like, I don't think it's going to be a situation where Mercedes are hunting them down, because the Mercedes seems weaker this year on the low-speed corners than it was last year. It's better. It's much peakier on the high speed, but the problem with that is
Singapore has those areas, right? I mean, the first sector is high speed. And
but then I think the low speed's going to really hurt them this year.
Yeah,
and same thing for Red Bull.
I think Red Bull will be fine in the first sector, because that's a lot of the long straight. As soon as you get into the twisting bits, it's going to be the aggressive curves.
Before Baku, this would have been a strange thing to say, but I do think it's going to be another weekend where Perez is going to be ahead of Max.
I doubt it. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't.
I think so. I think the understeer is going to kick in through free practice, and I think with the bumpy nature of this track, I think they're going to be even in a tighter window, and I think that's where all the problems are going to come from. And I can see Perez being more comfortable with the setup they go to.
He might, but again,
look, Perez needs to fight for the world championship. There's 7 races left. No.
Yeah, for sure. I think he might be the only driver that's actually out of the contention, out of the top 8.
Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's mathematically in contention anymore, right?
Yeah.
Or he could. I think
he is.
I think he'd have to win.
Only
every
Alonso
race.
is out of contention until now.
Yeah, but I think he'd have to win every race with
fastest point and everything.
He needs
basically
20,
everything. Yeah,
he needs 24.5 points or something, if I remember correctly, per race, which would mean Max, Norris, and Leclerc DNFing with him winning or something like that. So
yeah,
it might as well be mathematically impossible. Yeah.
Anyways, I think something similar, but for me, I think Max would be ahead. I don't really see it any other way. What's your prediction? Who wins?
I think it's going to be Norris. I think just in terms of form over the last few races, Piastri's been incredibly impressive, right? But in Monza,
Norris has not been slower. That's the
thing. Even during all of this, as you just said, Norris hasn't been slow. But Norris in the last few races, in Zandvoort, obviously incredible. In Monza, clearly, he was faster in qualifying, right? And in the race, as we talked about, I'm not going to go into it again because we've already done almost a half a podcast on it, but taken by surprise, emotionally, clearly a wreck after that.
Yeah.
But then coming into Baku, I think he was the faster racer, the whole way through practice.
He was the faster racer. He was ahead of Oscar, even on the lap where the yellow flag thing happened.
Yeah. So if that hadn't have happened, I think he would have been strongly in contention for a win at Baku. Just unfortunate. And for me, it's just, if he had been down on himself in Baku after that, I think I would have had more questions. But it just feels like, okay, look, they've just decided now it's a long shot for the title, but we're going to go for it and see what happens. And I reckon he's probably going to bring that energy into Singapore. And Norris, as much as no one likes it, is a very quick driver. And let's not forget, last year he was chasing down Sainz for the lead in this race as well.
For the win, yeah.
And then they helped each other out.
That car was not supposed to be there in any which way.
Yeah, whereas this year it should be.
And by the way, and these are the races why I tend to call Norris one of the elite drivers in Formula 1.
Yeah.
Just in case anyone has an issue.
Sochi 2021 was proof of that. Everyone's like, oh, he bottled it. And it's like, no, he didn't. It was just a really unfortunate situation.
I'll give you a better example. Austria 2020.
Yeah, when he got the podium, he had to gain 5 seconds.
And it was incredible. And he got the fastest lap on the I think it was the last lap only. and he outpaced Lewis Hamilton, who had a Mercedes. So just to understand the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways,
these are all elite drivers.
what's the top 3 predictions?
I'm gonna say Norris. You know what? I'm going to say Norris, Sainz, Piastri. I think this is one where Sainz gets the upper hand. Just going on, he is good around here. Obviously, he won it last year. And I think Sainz is also going to be coming back with a vengeance after losing that race. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this is going to be one where...
What happened?
Yeah. So, then again, basically, you could switch out Leclerc for Sainz here. I think there are some tracks where Leclerc and Sainz are just kind of Sainz is very, very good, and he tends to be on Leclerc's level for a race or two every year. And I think this is one of them. I think he'll just be more comfortable around here. But we'll see. Leclerc's on some form right now, so. But I don't think it'll. Put it this way: I don't think it'll be 2 Ferraris on the podium. I think it'll be a Ferrari sandwich, or like a McLaren sandwich with a Ferrari in the middle. So I think that's going to possibly be because there's some sort of team order. Norris chases him down, and then Piastri's kind of chasing at the end.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
Watch Max win now.
Yeah, he's not winning in this one. No. Okay. Just one more prediction. Where do you think Max finishes?
P8.
Wow.
I'm going to say that it's one of the weekends where everything that can go wrong does go wrong. I can feel
Usually
it coming.
It happens with him on Singapore, right?
Yeah,
Last 2 years have been such a shithole.
Yeah. And this is a year where none of us expect the car to be good. So I think it's going to be one of those, absolute shitstorms. And that'll be fun. That'll be fun
he
for the
can't afford
championship.
it anymore.
No, but it'll be fun for the championship, right?
Yeah.
If Norris gets a 20-point swing over Max, all of a sudden that becomes a real that becomes then a real fight towards the championship for the end.
39 points in 6 races.
Yeah. That's a challenge. That can be done. Yeah.
So I think it will be top 5. I think he'll qualify in. Yeah, I think he'll qualify in 6th.
I'll be really impressed with that, given I think the car is going to be really a challenge. So if he's top 5, I think that's an impressive run from Max.
Because look, what I expect is the worst case scenario is P8, and you're going with the worst case scenario. I expect him to qualify in P6, where it's Checo and one Mercedes driver, mostly Lewis. So he'll start in P6, and then maybe one of the drivers ahead kind of has an issue or something, and he ends up in top 5.
Well, he only needs to get one off the start, doesn't he? And then just defend like a motherfucker the whole way through, which he can do.
Which he can do, actually. Yeah. So that's going to be there. Who's going to win? I think it's a toss-up between Norris and Leclerc, because both were quite brilliant here. It could go either way. And I think Oscar was not that good. Oscar didn't fare that well here in Singapore last season, right?
Let me tell you where he was, because it's not a performance.
Slipped my mind. It wasn't a good one.
Yeah.
He wasn't in top 3, 4 or in the podium contention either.
I'll tell you now, he was 7th, Piastri.
Yeah, that's not a...
So,
yeah.
The only
thing
is...
That's not a highlight.
I mean, it's a very different Piastri that we're dealing with,
That's true. That's true.
Let's see.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be between Lando and Charles. Now, both will be pumped for the win, but I think,
You think Leclerc?
I'll go with Leclerc. I'll go Leclerc, Lando, Oscar. That's
you think Leclerc's going to beat Norris at this one, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, it's going to... Yeah, I think I'll take that.
Yeah. Well,
it makes the championship more interesting, by the way.
If Leclerc beats Norris and Max DNFs, we could have a very interesting title fight on our hand going for the rest of the season.
Just imagine.
Where are we at now in terms of because
59 for Norris, and Leclerc is at...
He's 235 to 313. So what's that? 313 minus...
That's 80.
78.
70.
It's a long shot, but it's not. It's also not impossible. If this is the thing. I think because of the swings in the past, where this seems so big because the times where we've had title fights like this, the points were
Usually the
less,
first and
different
second.
situation. Yeah. So this is kind of different territory where there could be a huge swing. I think just because if Red Bull don't fix their car in Austin, you've then got a Red Bull that could genuinely be finishing fourth or fifth at best every weekend. And that's a huge chunk.
You can't fight for the title in that case. Right?
That's a huge chunk. And he basically then has to hope that it swings, say, between Norris, Piastri and Leclerc. Because if one of them goes on a run, any of the three of them goes on a run, that could be a big problem for Max then, immediately. So
I agree.
He's really lucky, actually, that Piastri's around. If Daniel Ricciardo was still in that McLaren... Jesus.
Imagine that's 4 or 5 wins easy for Norris.
Imagine if Daniel Ricciardo was still in the McLaren and Binotto was still running Ferrari. I think Norris would have already won the title.
That's basically...
Norris would have won the title, basically, already.
Yeah. I mean, Ferrari would have imploded by now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, enough of... we're wrapping up with Baku as well. Now, finally, the most...
2 hours,
yeah. Now, finally, the most important bit. The blatantly biased tweets.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready? This is actually... I'm actually very, very, very excited about this one because there were a lot of reactions, a lot of varied ones.
Yeah.
There are reactions mostly from stuff that was said throughout the weekend. There's one that is probably Adrian Newey's comment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also there. So there's actually a lot of things which is actually going to make it a lot of fun. There's Heinz-Harald Frentzen as well.
So are you reading these out or am I?
You do that.
Okay.
The reading bit I'll leave it to you.
Okay. So we're starting with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, are we?
Precisely.
Yeah. So this is, I wanted to praise Franco for his good job today, but I am afraid for the Lewis fans wishing me death again after race analysis in Hungary crash with Max. Oh, Hungary crash with Max. Okay. Oh, Jesus.
Do you know
are Lewis fans
behind?
Going mental at him after the Hungary crash?
No. Yeah, that too. But how Franco fits in the equation?
Argentina.
No.
The Falklands. Are we going back that far?
No. Nothing like that. Neither Operation Paperclip. So let's leave all of that aside. It's basically Franco finished ahead of Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
So he was going to comment that congratulations Franco for finishing ahead of a 7-time world champion. So he said, I don't want to do that. The reason is because actually he was the one who made the comparison between the Lewis when Lewis moved over on Max, the two had a collision in Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
He made a comparison of that one with the 1997 Jerez between Michael and Villeneuve.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not great.
People were very civil and accepting of it. That's the best way to put it.
There's another one here then on Lewis. I'm guessing a lot of these are on Lewis then.
There are a few on Lewis. There are a few on Max. There are a few on Norris. So we are basically going to offend
a nice
all
mix
of
mad people this weekend. So
there's actually one on Lando Norris. So
lovely. So this is one on obviously someone had quoted Lewis Hamilton basically saying it's only the tires. It's only tires or whatever, basically, like he's not able to prepare them or whatever on tire temperature. This person responds, Lewis has too much patience, grace and humility. I would have stirred shit up by capitalizing on my own rabid fan base and getting them to sabotage my team right back to fuck. Oh, Christ. Like, I mean...
What you have to... There's one thing you have to appreciate. The self-awareness.
Yeah, my own rabid fan base. Yeah.
Just...
I love the honest. Also, I love the fact that there's a reason why you're not in that situation because you're fucking mental. That's why you're not a 7. Like, I mean, outside of just lack of skill, ability in a car, being a Formula 1 driver, outside of all those things, being fucking mental is why you're not allowed on the grid and that you're stirring shit on Twitter instead. Jesus. Absolutely bonkers. What is wrong with these people? But yeah, this sabotage thing is hilarious. My question always about the sabotage thing is, so was Russell then sabotaged all of last year? Like, was Russell sabotaged in Belgium? Like,
Belgium.
Yeah.
Look, there are Hungary. Then even in the even which race was it? Silverstone. These are three big point swings. But anyways,
I've seen the next one here. Guys, it's obvious. Anonymous email, Lewis slays and wins. Now that outrage is over, it's back to the way they operated at the start of the year with boosted Russell ego. Oh, for fuck's sake. I had to explain to someone some basic fundamentals about Formula 1 because of this shit over the weekend, right? Because I was on Twitter and I said something about this whole tyre thing, that, look, Russell is just... It could just be that Russell's doing a better job. Like, maybe there's no conspiracy here. It's just that Russell is a great driver. A lot of people were like, good, not great. Which my response is, well, if Russell's not great, then is Hamilton absolutely shit? Because, like, you know, it can't be both. But
the problem, what's the point you're actually not expressing correctly? It wasn't one post with good but not great, because I actually saw your comment.
It was tons
at least 10 to 15 of them with the same thing.
But they're all, I just count them all as one useless human being. But basically, one of them did respond. And when I responded, I was like, look, basically your argument then is that clearly Hamilton's not that great then. Because if you're saying Russell's not good, and Russell is whitewashing him in race head-to-heads and qualifying head-to-heads, and the only factor is points, and that's down to two really unlucky sessions, then clearly, if Russell's not great, what is Hamilton?
What does it make Lewis?
Yeah, exactly. And the response I got to that was, clearly there's something going on, because Hamilton was ahead in FP1 to FP2, and then all of a sudden in FP3, Russell takes over. And I had a simple thing to that. I was like, look, there's loads of reasons that could be. And one of them that we see happen all the time with drivers in these situations is, as you get closer to qualifying, as you may be aware, they're ramping up their pace to get ready for qualifying. So they're getting closer and closer to the limit. So obviously, as you get closer and closer to the limit, you're going to see the better driver who can manage the tyres and is more comfortable in the car start to do better, which is exactly what fucking happened. Because when you're only going to get tyre temperature issues when you're pushing the fucking tyre. Like, it's not rocket science. So as soon as you're pushing the tyre, Russell becomes better. Obviously, Russell's better at managing the tyre. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, just...
There's one more thing, by the way. Yeah. Russell missed most of the FP2 with the power unit issue.
But Russell's far better than Hamilton.
On Friday as well. So he ends up having a power unit issue throughout Friday. Has a very compromised day. Mm-hmm. And even then he turns it around, but it's...
Also, another thing people said was, why would they change the setup going into the race then? It's like, well, for obvious reasons. First of all, it's a completely different race now because you're starting from the back. You've taken a penalty to change the engine. So obviously your whole strategic plan is different, right? First of all. And second of all, Lewis wasn't happy with the fucking setup in Parc Ferme anyway. So of course he's going to change the setup. Like, these people are insane. Like, these people
they read the word experiment and they lose their shit.
I am surprised that these people can dress themselves with the amount of shit they're posting online. And before I get called a racist, I will be insulting some Verstappen fans in a while as well. So you can throw that one out the window. But someone else said here, clearly something's going on. The way Lewis handles it only serves to confirm his legendary GOAT status. I'm sure his autobiography will be very interesting one day. Yeah. Hopefully he gets his autobiography printed in Woking.
Oh. Okay.
The fans for a long time will know what that's about, right?
Yeah.
The next one is... Yeah, the next one who is about Verstappen and Norris now. So this is one of the big Verstappen fans who says, from the cute Lando to Lando No Rat, which doesn't make sense. Because if it's Lando No Rat, then he's not ratting. What are you talking about? The nickname itself Norris, doesn't make any sense.
He moved Norris to No Rat.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. Because
he drew the
mouse
emoji as well for that.
Yeah, but that would be No Rat, which means he's not ratting.
I know,
that doesn't make any sense. These people are morons. What happened to him since Miami? Has Lando Norris so badly poisoned by Zach Brown, or has Lando Norris been so badly poisoned by Zach Brown? Max is driving all the way to just to congratulate you and betray him by being a rat. Where's the respect? So was Norris also congratulating Russell because he passed him as well? Few problems with
Max
this.
Max was.
Yeah. Few problems with this. If Max is in the same position as Norris, he is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
These drivers literally without
Okay,
even
by the way,
thinking.
we forgot to touch base on this thing. One thing that happened here, Lewis was informed on the team radio not to overtake, and apparently multiple other drivers was.
Yeah.
So GP, some blame goes to GP as well, that he was
Yep.
sleeping
Yeah,
when
yeah.
Max was basically going for overtaking everyone else. So if you have to blame someone,
before we should actually just quickly touch on this. I know it'll be a couple of minutes
go
here
for
and
it.
jump back, but like there's two sides to this. First of all, the ratting thing is so hilarious, and what I found funny about it wasn't just Max fans. There was also some Hamilton fans being like, "What a rat! Like, what's he doing?" And my response was, at the exact same time, Hamilton went, "Whoa! Hulkenberg just passed me under VSC. He can't do that."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Hamilton fans complaining about Norris doing it at the same time as Hamilton is doing it to Hulkenberg is just hilarious. But then the whole thing about, these guys are friends and he's waving. So basically what these guys are saying is, for the last few races, they've been saying Norris isn't ruthless enough, right? And then Norris has a chance to steal 2 points gain against Hamilton. And he shouldn't take it. Max, sorry. And he shouldn't take it because Max waved at him and was congratulating him. If Max was in the exact same situation, he would be doing the exact same thing. And when someone
Max
said
would
to me,
literally
no other
raise his
driver-
hand. Basically,
Yes.
after the race, Max would have raised his hand and said, "I made a mistake."
Yeah.
He would not have been like that. Lando ratted me out.
No. And you want the
That's
proof
not
of
how
that?
they operate.
The proof of that? The two of them flew home together on Max's jet. So I think Max is absolutely fine with it.
Yeah,
to
they
be
traveled
perfectly
together,
honest.
right? I mean, they
Yeah.
traveled to the race together as well. So
Yeah, and then the second thing to say on that is, outside of the whole Norris thing, the FIA decision was really bizarre. Really bizarre.
I don't get that. What that made? I didn't really.
It didn't make
I
any
don't
sense.
think it made sense.
No,
Yeah, I
like
don't think.
the thing is, under the regulations, everyone's like, "Oh, it was after checkered flag," and they were nowhere near the incident. Both of the, even if you just think about it, forget about the regs for a second. Neither of those things make sense, because a safety car after the checkered flag, or a virtual safety car, is the same as before the flag. The cars are still going around track at whatever pace they want, so you need to slow it down. Second of all, as the FIA said, there could have been marshals and equipment moving to the area, so it doesn't matter if
Precisely.
you're nowhere near the area. And the third thing is, the regulations just say on track. It doesn't say after the formation lap, you could have a VSC, same rules apply. On track is on track. It was just really strange. I've never heard the FIA go, "Oh, well, we didn't make a decision on it before." So
Which basically said, we don't have a precedence, so we are going to give the lamest of the penalties. But again,
it was like, we don't have a precedent, so we're not going to set a precedent. We're just going to give a warning, but that's not a precedent, and then next time we'll give a penalty.
I don't think you can
doesn't
do
make
that,
sense.
right? Yeah,
I've never
precisely.
heard them do that before.
In the court of law, it won't even hold.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But like, the thing is, what my thinking would be, if they had made a decision like 10 races ago to just give a warning, then you'd say, okay, the precedent is a warning. But they're saying that basically they didn't notice it last time, so they can't penalize it this time. That doesn't make any sense. Like, I've never heard that.
I mean, I forgot. I think Derek Warwick was one of the stewards. If I'm not, it's either Warwick or Johnny Herbert.
Johnny Herbert.
One of the
was
two
there.
was.
Johnny Herbert. Was
Johnny
there,
Herbert was. So no conspiracy theories there of Honda dealerships. So
no.
Anyways,
but yeah, it was a really bizarre. Like, look, I think it was a fair decision. I get that, but it was just very bizarre. Really bizarre.
I think ideally, just if you.
Like, you can't
Look,
like,
overtaking under safety car or virtual
It's a
safety car is
slam dunk.
probably
it's a
it's
slam
a
dunk.
penalizable offense.
It was just, the whole wording was very strange. Like, why would you give a warning and then say, "Oh, but if it happens again, you'd be penalized"? Like that, it just didn't make. And
It doesn't make any sense.
in fairness, if it was the first time and they were like, "Right, we're going to give a warning and clarify," we haven't clarified it before. But to say your reason for this is because we didn't notice an incident before, I've never heard anything like that in Formula One, and it doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, oh Jesus. Here's one about the flexible wings on the rear of the McLaren.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ, what is wrong with these people? How do you not drown eating your cereal in the morning? Like, How do you have this ability to type when you're this stupid? I'm blaming Ferrari for this. You could have pushed for more than $100 million fine, and with the financial crisis in '08, you could have bankrupted them completely. You might have even pushed for a permanent or temporary ban that would have set them back decades, but you didn't. Well, Ferrari were set back decades regardless, because they still haven't won since. So that's stupid. Clearly hasn't watched Formula 1 for more than 7 minutes.
No, he's saying that would have set McLaren back decades.
No, this is the 100 million. Sorry. Yeah, this is the 100 million fine for McLaren. My bad. Yeah. Now I look like a moron. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just... First of all, it wouldn't have. McLaren was a completely different company.
It's just the level of frustration, which...
It's just stupidity. It doesn't make any sense. Like
it's funny because... Yeah. Go for it.
But $100 million fine to McLaren at that time as well wasn't really a huge amount. Like, and then... they would have just got more investment.
I think most of it was paid by Mercedes only, so that was also funny.
and also 90 million of it was just for being a dick, remember? That was the thing. It was 10 million for the infringement and 90 million for being a dick.
So maybe blame Ron Dennis for it.
Yeah. But just, like, these people are crazy. The thing is about this as well, it's like, there's just this constant thing of, they want teams to push and catch McLaren or whatever, or, they want teams to catch Red Bull last year, and then
just give them the context.
So,
of what
this is about basically, McLaren have found some sort of workaround where they can basically have the back wing flex to the point where it gives them like almost a tiny like DRS effect on the straights, which
the DRS flaps when it is supposed to be closed. It opens a little, which is basically reducing drag.
So it's essentially, because you're using a higher downforce wing, you're also gaining in the slower sections while kind of not giving away too much drag.
Basically, that's what active aero is supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is a very, very, you can say,
minute version
elegant
of that,
application of that.
But it's also like just one of these things where it's so funny that everyone wanted someone to catch Red Bull, and now that because it's done. But now it's done, and just because it's not the team that they wanted to catch Red Bull, everyone's losing their shit. If this was Mercedes with Hamilton catching Red Bull, most of these guys would be like, "Oh, this is brilliant," oh well, you cheated for years, we can cheat now, and all this shit. So it's just moronic. If it passes the test, it ain't cheating. It's just
okay. By the way, your view on this is that since it is passing the test, it should carry on as it.
The FIA need to change the test. To be honest with you, the FIA should have changed the test a couple of years back. This flexi wing conversation has gone on for a while. So if the intent is to allow a certain amount of flexibility, then just allow it and make just say, look,
can't. I think that's the thing.
The intent is not to allow flexibility. So they've had ample time to up these tests. And unfortunately, this doesn't affect safety, so they can't just change the thing in season. The other thing is...
They can.
They can, but it's not to do with safety, this one. So it's not. They'd have to get a team vote on it. And here's the dirty little secret that all of the fucking people don't understand, that constantly say the FIA are biased towards X and Y. You know what they don't understand? It's the teams who are biased, not the FIA. And... At the moment, the biggest voting block is the Mercedes group because they have most engines. It's kind of typically the way it works. So you know who you can blame for this? Not McLaren, Mercedes. So,
But
not the FIA.
I think they'll need to.
Mercedes.
I do think they'll need to do something about this.
The problem that they're going to have, I think, is they're going to have to come up with some sort of test for next year, because they're not going to be able to do it this season. I've heard going around is
7 races is too less,
it's not going to change for this season. So the question will be, will they make some sort of technical arrangement for over the winter? The teams, the other side is teams have to be...
The problem here is it's going into the territory of almost active error, cause...
Yeah.
And look,
it is bad, but how are you going to...
If it is something...
You know what the problem they're going to have, though, is it's a big investment in testing equipment, and for a test that might not be useful when we get to actual active aero in 2026.
So they're going to bring an entire season run in this manner, right?
Well, I mean, they might do, but what will happen then is basically it's just going to be open season for the other teams to do it as well. And for anyone wondering, that's why Ferrari and Red Bull are complaining. It's not because they want it banned. They just want to know whether they can do it.
Yeah. And it will be up, right? Yeah. I think in Austin, Ferrari is bringing their flexi wing or something, whatever that is.
The other thing that people just constantly... either forget or haven't been watching Formula One for long enough need to remember as well is, like, if you change the technical regulation or the test, the problem with that is you think, oh, this is going to affect McLaren. And what usually happens is it ends up affecting other teams who are doing stuff because they change the test and then it affects...
2022.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is, like Red Bull in the past, when they tried to change the regulations to affect Red Bull had the best understanding of the regulations. So that meant that even when you change the test...
laughed off.
It just ended up affecting it ended up affecting other teams. And if they try and penalise McLaren right now, I guarantee they'll end up hurting Ferrari or McLaren or Mercedes, or Red Bull, because it seems right now McLaren have the best understanding. So they are likely going to be the ones who can deal with
Marshall
the change.
Deserves a lot of credit.
A lot of credit,
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the next one anyway. Here's what I think Mercedes are doing to Lewis Hamilton. Oh, this should be fucking brilliant. Lewis finds the optimal...
Oh, fuck, it's a thread. Jesus, it's a thread.
Oh, God. Oh, it's not a big... This is the one where I replied, actually. Crazy idea. Could it just be Russell? Jesus, there's 31 replies.
31 comments.
Fucking hell.
I think 20 of them are... No, he's not great.
Not good. Yeah. So Lewis finds the optimal setup during FP sessions. They give it to Russell so he's fast, and then they screw Lewis over by sending him out on the wrong tyre temps. And I feel like Mercedes will be putting Lewis on suboptimal strategy from now on to hinder his race pace, which has been consistently strong. He should have been on hard, medium, blah, blah, blah. Say we go into 2025 and Lewis is driving for Ferrari and his qualifying pace is back. That would be our answer. It's a different car and a different season, you tosspot. Like, it wouldn't be an answer at all. And what happens then if he goes... Basically, what you're setting up there is, if he goes in and he's not better in qualifying, then you're basically saying either Leclerc is brilliant or Ferrari are continuing this sabotage on. So these people are just never happy, basically. There's never going to be a... but yeah, like, the idea... Like, as I said to someone...
Okay, one thing, just to debunk the whole sabotage thing... If Toto Wolff is sitting there and he has to sell Mercedes to Max Verstappen, would he be happy with the fact that Mercedes is right now the second fastest Mercedes power unit car? No.
No.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
There's a very high chance that a Mercedes power unit car wins the World Championship this season. And it will not be Mercedes.
Yeah.
And
it looks
will
really bad.
Max even think... I mean, that's a damning thing. That's a damning thing for Mercedes, right?
Yeah.
Will Toto Wolff go ahead and sabotage his driver, second or first, whatever driver, and hurt his chances in constructors as well? Does it make sense in any which way? He wants to have as good a... I think, okay, let's assume Lewis is at his peak and he's getting these race wins like he did earlier.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that sell Mercedes more to Max Verstappen? Or do a result like in Baku, is that going to sell more? It's nonsensical.
The thing is as well, just to say that basically they're getting Lewis to do the work and then he's passing all the telemetry over. And someone responded to me like, oh, well, how do you know that doesn't happen? I'm like, well, if it does happen, then Jesus, like, Lewis is really not a very intelligent guy, because earlier this year he was designing the car and now he doesn't notice when his setup completely changes. Like, how is that possible? Like, I'm sorry, but it's just such bullshit and reaching. There's a couple more that are literally just the same things we've already talked about, so I'm going to jump to one, and one of them I can't open because I'm blocked by the person.
Don't miss that one. But
okay, well, you look that up, but I'm going to look at this one in the meantime. This is fucking hilarious.
No, take this one first, because this is the best. Okay. This is actually the best.
Right, let's see. Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah. Oh, God, this is going to be terrible. My father is 80, a doctor of philosophy, worked as an official for the government. He is always very balanced in his views. But he says it's a shame how Mercedes treats Lewis Hamilton. It's shameful for this brand to be so ungrateful. We would have expected better from Mercedes-Benz. Yep. Well, your father clearly wasn't around when Mercedes-Benz helped the Nazis. But anyway,
wait. 80 year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would have been.
He would have just born.
Just born,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he missed it. Maybe, and I didn't realize philosophers covered Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
Also, what you're talking about there is psychologist, not philosopher.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Is there a PhD in philosophy? Maybe
There
I'm
probably
too
is.
much of an
And I bet it's about as useful as some toilet paper I've got in my bathroom, you know?
Yeah.
So, oh God. Right.
Okay.
Two
I
or
think
three
there's a
more of
fine-
these. Let's just get through them. Because these are hurting my brain. Adrian Newey showed his YouTube privilege.
No.
What's
It's not
YT
YouTube.
privilege? Is that white privilege?
Yes.
Oh, for God's sake.
Uh,
Oh, Jesus Christ. When he mentioned Abu Dhabi 21 and Lewis's mental health after it, we really need to talk about how this sport doesn't see Lewis as human with feelings, as well as how dismissive they are about his feelings too. I just don't even know where to begin on that. Like, just, what are you talking about?
See.
First of all, why wasn't, he literally in his book and repeatedly said how much he'd love to work with Lewis Hamilton. This was a big talking point earlier this year.
No. So
These are the same morons as well.
I'll give the context. In the interview with High Performance Podcast, Newey said that the Mercedes team
He didn't even
never
say
moved
Lewis.
on
Yeah, I
from
remember.
80%.
He wasn't talking about Lewis. He said that the Mercedes team held on to it for too long.
Yeah.
He talked about the whole group. So
Precisely.
unless the entirety of Mercedes are black guys, then this doesn't add up straight away. Like, this is a stupid argument. Do you know what the problem with this is? There are actual problems in the world with racism, discrimination, and all of this. And when people do shit like this, it basically just degrades it all to the point where it just goes, oh, you're just talking shite now. And you're basically making someone with actual problems and real issues we need to deal with completely. Like, I hate this stuff. This really does my head in. And also, by the way, the problem with racism isn't white people, it's racists. Not all white people are fucking racist. Like, it really annoys me with this conversation. And by the way, white privilege as well. That's another conversation that annoys me, because you know what? Sure, white people are more privileged than a lot of people of color in the world, but 85% of us are privileged to be fucking alive at the moment. And also, 99% of us aren't rich. It's 1% of people who are upper class wealthy people, and a lot of them happen to be white, therefore all white people are bad. Like, it's just such a stupid argument, and it really does my head in. But that's for a different conversation. Lisa, go fuck yourself. Let's see. There's another one here, I'm sure. Verstappen lover. Oh, this is Verstappen lover pointing out Norris hoax fan. This is a level of stupidity that I can't comprehend either. And this must be a parody account.
The thing is, we've left out no one. It's basically Norris fans, Max fans,
This is a Norris
Lewis
fan
fans.
who says, how much did Andrea Stella pay to the marshals to show that yellow flags in front of Lando for no reason and ruin his lap? I can't
Look. It does not end there. Go in the comments. The first is wanna know too.
Oh, Jesus
The second is there are people agreeing with it. There are 81 likes on this thing.
It's easy to defend Norris, but I will not defend his fans, because that is a level of stupidity that just what does Andrea Stella get out of Norris being behind? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like,
maybe an extra pint from Mark. Probably.
Yeah.
That's
okay. Maybe him and Mark Webber are having ferocious sex, and that's what it's down to. Yeah. Who knows? That is insane. These people are crazy. Seriously, I don't understand how these people can use a smartphone. This is insane. There's a couple of others, but I'm blocked from them. I'm blocked from a lot of people on Twitter.
Blocked from?
A lot. I think there's like 1,200 people blocked me or something. I only realised this recently.
Jesus.
And I wouldn't mind, but I don't go on like rants about... Like, I usually am ranting about some nonsensical take, and then I get blocked by people. And the funny thing is, recently I've been blocked by a lot of Verstappen fans. And
I've had that experience.
And I guarantee you, in 6 weeks' time, I'll be blocked by a load of Norris fans because I'll be pointing out how good Piastri's been. And I'll be like, well, wait, you were just defending Norris a minute ago. And I'm like, yeah, because I'll defend Norris when someone says something stupid about Norris. And when someone says something stupid about Piastri, I'll defend Piastri because, like...
I mean, just wait for some time when people turn on Oscar as well. It's going to come.
Oh, if Oscar starts beating Verstappen next year, these guys will turn on Piastri in a heartbeat, and they won't care about any of this so-called logic that goes on.
Yeah,
you know, it's all bollocks. It's all bollocks.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry for that brain rot.
I mean, the thing is, why should we suffer alone?
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing.
That's true. Yeah. This was a long episode, but there was a lot to talk about. To be fair.
Yeah. It was fun. I mean, it's fun.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you had a good time. I think it was a fun podcast. There were a lot of things we covered.
I'm gonna have a
Drop
beer
a
to
comment.
cure this hangover.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine. I'll probably go to sleep now.
Yeah, it's like 2 in the morning
getting
for
too
you.
late. Yeah. Anyways, drop a comment, like the video, and thanks for watching. And if possible, help us increase the subscribers.
Yeah, please do.
Take
That
care.
would be amazing. If you hate us, subscribe harder. Right, take it easy. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.